enforcement duty is not only just to control the pornography, please understand this point. Why we are really miserably failed in many of these incidents is, please remember, it is not just the law enforcement problem. There are various stakeholders really who are involved in this. The first and the foremost stakeholder is nothing but the parent, please understand it. Second is, there are certain individuals who have a, remember, right to inform to Government of India, to any nation. These are the IP addresses and these are the URLs from where the pornography is getting hosted. How many of you really done this so far and how many of you really implemented? Think about it. I'm pretty sure that no one has implemented. But there are certain individuals who are voluntarily coming forward and reporting to the law enforcement agencies, filing the public interest litigations. These are the websites where, remember, the pornography content is getting hosted. Schools, etc. Also, there is something called cyber ethics, which is supposed to be made it mandatory. But unfortunately, none of the schools, the cyber ethics was taught. I've seen certain countries where once a kid admitted into a school, he is supposed to write and sign, and also parents should sign something called cyber ethics. It means if he come across when he is browsing internet, if he come across any other website which is really hosting a pornography content, he should inform the corresponding college or a school. That's also important as a part of that. The next is NGOs for bringing the message properly, like the tremendous job we are doing it. Their corporates as a corporate social responsibility also have something called Cyber Safety Week. Still, you remember we conducted nearly 8 Cyber Safety Weeks along with the NASCOM and Data Security Council of India. A 1-week entire program has been conducted. The first day is for the parents, second day is for the school children, third day is for the honorable judiciaries, exactly to discuss about, remember, how to safe and secure, remember, internet. So as a part of that, the schools, especially the kids, online safety was made as a part of that. So conducting cyber security weeks is very, very important. And that's where, remember, a lot of corporates are more than happy to work with various sections in the NGOs as a part of corporate social responsibility. Third, if you look at is, what about the internet service providers liability? I think that's where the legal people are going to speak about it. Is the government regulations or is it a self-regulation? We have seen some cases that is really involved in this case called Baji.com and all places. So what I would like to suggest is something called self-regulation. The ISPs are supposed to come forward to particular block it, because government blocking of a particular website is a very, very tough task. So ISPs have to play a very, very crucial role in this. They are supposed to help the other stakeholders, remember. It is not just parents, it is not just the schools, it is not just, remember, the police. And service providers are also having a very bigger role to play. If they come across, remember, any website which was hosted from their server, if something is called, remember, a pornography content, they are supposed to block that one. So self-regulation is more important than the government regulations as far as the service provider's role is concerned. And strong public-private partnership is also important. So let us see what is that strong public-private partnership. I have seen the two sides of the coin, working for more than 2 decades in the police industry and moving to IT industry. As IT industry people have the complete domain knowledge, what type of tools, how to develop it. Police, remember, they don't know what is that, but they have some tools that is required. What is the primary requirement we are seeing is, if you can bring the police and, remember, the IT industry together, what are the real problems, remember, the police are facing, what type of solutions the IT industry can offer, as a domain expert, and how they can come out with the beautiful tools. I'm going to show you some of the tools if time permits. So that is the one important point. So constant interaction to build the tools is very, very important. So IT industry has to work, remember, along with the law enforcement industries and NGOs. And second is developing an open source filtering and monitoring tools. Yes, we come out with a very beautiful tool. Just remember, install that tool and give certain keywords for that. Remember, it is going to tell you in all the websites that particular content is available. Recently, I'm going to show you 2-3 cases which have done it at voluntarily to understand the missing children in this country and how they were pushed into the sex trade and how we are able to identify. Just let me show 2 cases, later you'll understand real importance of these tools, etc. So developing a very good open source tool, remember, for filtering and the monitoring of the content that is available on internet. That is very, very important. Third, use something called the web crawlers. So there are very good web crawlers are available. The law enforcement industry should start utilizing that web crawlers by utilizing the domain knowledge of the IT people. So once they will work together, you can give a text or you can give also image. For example, if you take my photograph and host it in this, remember, the web crawler, All the websites where my photograph is available, I can able to get it and immediately I can stop that one. I don't know how many of you are aware, Google is having something called reverse image search. For example, today you take your photograph and keep it in the Google reverse image search. In the whole internet, remember, wherever your photograph is there, it is going to tell you the IP addresses, etc., the websites where it is really available it is. Please remember, something called the Google reverse search, something called TinEye, these are all the various tools that are really available to identify that any missing children in which location is really available. Then something called the data mining techniques. Today we know that data is the biggest hot cake and a huge amount of data are available. Can you mine that data depending upon your requirement is? Can you link who is linked with whom? Practically it is possible. So you require to use the data mining as a part of remember to really stop pornographic content on internet. And third, the NASCOM has taken a very good initiative along with the Data Security Council of India. The cyber labs has been established in different states and especially for the capacity building. Mr. Sharath, I think yesterday you might have spoke about this point. Sharath is also from the Bangalore Cyber Lab. Kolkata is having a cyber lab. So the police are getting, remember, with the support of the NASCOM and DSA, a capacity building exercise has been. But the efforts that was created is very, very tip of iceberg. A lot we are supposed to do it. And conducting cyber safety weeks in schools especially. So what is the effect of pornography? And protecting the children from online cyber pedophiles, that is also very, very important. And pooling our resources to create a centralized fund and a database. Can't we create an app from an engineering student? If any cybercrime victim is available in this country who is a kid, there is a reporting platform. So far such platforms are not completely built up. Can't we take as a remember as an NGO to create a simple remember and distributing the various states police agencies? Just a reporting platform, uploading what is observed in a particular website. Then that NGO may take the matter to the judiciary as a public interest litigation to block a particular website. That mechanism is currently missing in this country. And what is the case studies? Let me see that you'll understand it. The first and the foremost, if you look at it, unfortunately today if you go to Google and type the word escorts, what will come up and press enter, you will see escort for a girl in Kolkata. If I stay in Hyderabad and type it escort, girl in, remember, Bangalore, Hyderabad, depending upon your what city you are going to get it. Can't you identify and take out all the photographs that are available and create a data bank? Compare that photographs with the photograph of the missing children reported in the police? The answer is yes. Everything is freely, softwares are available. Just create some mechanism where downloading all the escorts websites, the photograph at centralized location, and use the Google reverse image search to compare the missing children and both, and then able to identify that what was the locations where these kids are really available. It is that data is available. Now let us see one more hit is a word I told the web crawlers. Today I did the indexing of all the remember the pornographic websites that are available based on certain keywords combinations are given. For example, today you can go to Google and type it something called massage plus female with a male. You will get remember all the places where it is available, including the telephone numbers. Create a data bank of all the telephone numbers. Take it to police. Download, remember, the call data records of the people. Do a data mining, who is speaking with whom. Certainly you are going to get a very good linkage in what locations are available, etc. You don't require to take something called a development of a separate software. What you require is only will you require to execute this point. Please understand this point. So what the next one is, payment industry and the credit and debit card payments, remember the porno sites. Is any exercise has been done in this country where who is really connecting to pornographic content and paying the money for downloading the pornography? Make that credit card and debit cards non-functional. You can able to identify that who are trying to download and upload the pornographic content. And this, remember, is not done in this country by any of the law enforcement agencies, requesting the banking industry to provide, remember, the credit card numbers and debit card numbers that were used, where people have purchased something from a what? Pornographic content. So one important case I would like to discuss in detail, you will understand it. The case is very simple. It has brought a lot of satisfaction for me. How it is? After I joined my corporate, almost remember every day I will travel. I used to get down at night 9 o'clock from Mumbai, Delhi, different location to my base location, Hyderabad. And next day morning again 6 o'clock I used to travel it. That was my daily schedule almost for the last 2 years. So what I observed is, most of the times when I get down at Hyderabad, when I travel from different locations, when I'm moving in the morning, there are certain passengers who are traveling in the same manner. But what was really surprising me is, there are female members who are in the age group of something around 15 years to something around 27 years. Yes, I being at the top position, somewhere I have a business requirement to travel. It really created a doubt for me, what for these girls are traveling. They're also coming to Hyderabad and again next day morning it. Right? That was a doubt that has really burnt up my mind. With my contacts, I will try to start digging this into deeper further. One exercise we are talking it is, take the entire list of the people who are traveling it, all the travelers. Separate male and females. So I got the list of the females who are getting down for the last 6 to 7 months in Hyderabad airport. I'm not talking about the airport for whom I did it for some reasons. Assume I got the list of the people. Then from the female, I removed some of the people who are a part of the airline employees, call it the air hostesses. Then the next job I have done it is, less than 15 years and more than 32 years I separated. So I took the number, something around 15 years to 32 years female travelers who are traveling regularly. I found something around 272 people. So once remember, I got the list of the people, I went to airline industry's databases to get it. Exactly who has booked the telephone tickets for these people. I got 142, remember, telephone numbers who are constantly booking for these tickets. Out of that 142, the next job is, at the airport that wherever you got, remember, call towers are available. These 142 numbers, remember, for which the calls were went at night 9 o'clock, we captured it. So we got, remember, who is calling these 142 numbers? We got a list of something around again 250 or 256. Then the next job is, this 256, after they call that number, what is the next number for them they are calling I got? So I got the entire list of, remember, the escorts. And who is the people really running this entire network? Because the girl, remember, somebody books the ticket, she gets down at Hyderabad airport, assume. Immediately she contacts the broker. The broker will give some number and this girl will call that number. So somebody will come and pick her and next day morning again she will drop at the airport. So we got the entire, remember, the network. Who is the, remember, missing children? And who is running this entire prostitution network? So that we are able to mine it from the data that is available. We did it only at 1 or 2 airports. If we start doing it at all major airports, we can get an overall picture of all the telephone numbers, remember, who is really running this. Compare that one with the missing children's list. I'm pretty sure that you are able to get it 60 to 65% success rate in this. So please understand here, data mining is very, very important because the luck today we are having is we have a huge amount of data available. From the data, taking out what is really required is the most important. That is what I would like to suggest it. So these are some of the technical measures really you can take it. And I think after this discussion, you are going to have a set of people who are from the industry. Please utilize the services of the industry because the industry is also very much interested to help, remember, as individuals to serve this country. I've seen a lot of industry people asking, sir, I want to work for the police. Tell me how can I help them? So that is where, remember, we require to have a very good cooperation with the law enforcement agencies, with the IT industry. So thank you very much. If you are having any specific queries, I'm more than happy to answer it. Do you have any doubts so that I can clarify it? Because certain tools which I want to show it, but in the public it's not advisable to show it, that's the reason. Yes, please.
Google site, but to our surprise, all of a sudden it was in our vernacular, Tamil. So the boy who has committed suicide got the information, everything in our vernacular Tamil.
Right.
So how this happened? because we thought everything is in English or some other language, but Hindi also I think most of the people knows, but when it comes to Tamil, it was really a very surprise thing.
Right. I don't know here how many of you are available from the IT industry, to be frank. For example, you are having a computer system. If a new virus wants to enter into your computer system, your antivirus is not allowing to enter that virus, right? How it is happening is, hope I don't know how many of you are aware, there is every file in the computer is having something called hash value. I don't know how many of you heard about it. It's an alphanumeric uppercase, lowercase number. That if you give as a remember input for your antivirus, the same file will not allow it to enter. The first and the foremost, if this type of incident happens is, whatever is the file which got downloaded into your system, right? That file you right click and generate the hash value. And if that hash value is kept at the gateway level of Government of India, nobody in this country will be able to download that software. For example, one kid committed suicide. Okay, let me become one. My aim is not so that others should get victimized. So take that computer, whatever is the file you have downloaded, just calculate the hash value, distribute to all the parents in this country. All the parents in their house computer system, ask them to download this particular executable file as a hash value. And if anybody downloads, try to download, the antivirus will not allow it to execute. In IT industry, we will do something called whitelisting of the applications. What is the meaning of whitelisting means? If this is my organization's computer, I cannot execute here any other software. So only specific applications are allowed to run it, that's called whitelisting. Other than that whitelisting, remaining all is called blacklisting. So if you whitelist your system's application, your son or daughter, if he wants to download anything, it will never get executed. Why this message is not going, I told you. IT industry knows what is whitelisting and what is blacklisting. The law enforcement agencies and the parents don't know what is this. For example, Hindi edition you got it, you got a Tamil version you got it, remember. Just calculate the hash value. Push it to all the service providers in this country. No service provider should allow this particular hash value file to enter into the country. Problem will get solved. That is a simple thing we are supposed to do it. Unfortunately, we are missing that. The reason is, nobody really come to us to ask this is my problem. Simple technique, that is more than sufficient. Yes. So because I strongly believe, reactive is no longer going to work it. Because you have to be proactive and predictive. That's what I said, predictively you can do what is happening it. Why reactive, I'm telling you. If I start investigating, I told you earlier, in 1990s when I started investigating electronic evidence in the computer system, if one computer was sent by the investigating officer, my success rate is 100%. But today they are sending 100 computer systems, my success rate is not even 1%, because there is so many ways people can destroy the evidence, people can store the evidence which cannot be caught. Right? So I'm telling you to what extent people have become very clever. We know pornography will be in the form of some images or something in the form of, remember, a video file. One criminal recently used a software, all the remember files which are images, which is a JPEG image, or which can be as a MP4 file video, he converted that into executable files, EXE. And he created a folder Windows in the program files of the operating system. As an investigating officer, we never searched the program files, and by seeing that, we thought it's an executable file, it's not at all, remember, a pornographic file. There are so many ways people are really hiding the data. And today, no one is going to hide any data in his computer because we got, with the grace of God, internet. Private networks are getting run, peer-to-peer networks are getting run. So there, it's impossible to identify who is the sender and who is the person downloading practically. That's why I never thought to go for something called reactive approach. My advice is always to proactive approach.
Sir, I am Achyutarao from Hyderabad,
Yes.
a child rights activist and member of commission. Sir, my question is, really we are related with your this thing, really. And my question is, frequently we will get some WhatsApp communication that some child has beaten, some abuse are going on, like that. All these communication only forwarded. How to locate the person actually who sent it.
Right.
That is becoming a big problem for us. I maybe what we call small thing for you, but people like us, it is a very big problem.
Sure, I will tell you. So your intention is to identify the source of WhatsApp message.
Where that has happened,
Right.
and where really whether it is happened or
Okay.
only to.
Sure. So let me clarify this and I will proceed.
Thank you.
See, WhatsApp is a best live example at one point of time is a peer-to-peer network. I don't know how many of you are aware what to peer-to-peer. Have you heard about something called torrent? Torrent is where I think you might have downloaded a lot of movies. You might have, and torrent, what happens is, if you install my torrent application and I can connect to your computer, so this is a one-to-one communication. In one-to-one communication, you can download anything available in my system, I can download anything available in system. That is generally called P2P, called peer-to-peer network. It is not connected to internet, it is a one-to-one connected, right? So WhatsApp is at one point of time is a live example of this, it's only one-to-one communication. Assume I kept a server in between. Anything I am sending, anything I am receiving, if it is getting stored, then I can identify it. But today the WhatsApp is going that type of technologies. That's why today I are able to identify that who is the sender, who is what receiver, similar to that of the mail only. But I can explain in detail. I'm not supposed to discuss this in what open domain exactly what is happening, but today it's possible to identify. Okay?
Hello.
It's similar to how the mail is getting originated and how the mail is getting distributed.
Mr.
That was the last question that we took, but there would be plenty of time for a one-to-one during the tea break.
Mr. Pandya, thank you. Thanks for your good presentation. Just I want one thing, what I have seen through your presentation, that's a very good, and for the elite people mainly. This presentation, I feel that is for the elite people mainly. In West Bengal scenario, I can see there are 7,000 schools in, I mean high school only, 7,000 high schools in West Bengal itself, where the children have very good access to the mobile, but their parents don't have.
Okay.
And in that scenario, today we are talking about the sexual exploitation in internet. The children have the access, but the parent don't have. And in that scenario, I am saying about 8,000 schools and more than 10 lakhs students are there. What is the solution for them?
That's where I told you, remember, the first parents has to be get educated. Please understand this point is, now today we know that my daughter knows more to remember operate than me in many things. So parents has to get first educated. Before you are giving the mobile phone to your kid, remember this what. Second, why you want, for example, you give a mobile phone. I intentionally give the mobile phone to my kids because they don't take it out because father has given me something suspicious. So what we'll try to do is, in that mobile phone, YouTube, I will register with my email ID of Gmail. So I'm having another device of iPad. So what my daughter has searched in the YouTube videos, I can able to get it on my. It is sync is possible because today the greatest advantage is one device can be synced with another device, and by sitting in any country and you can able to see what my daughter is looking at it. That's all exactly possible. I will explain you 2-3 tools also. I'm more than happy to give it to us. Ask the parent to remember installing the kid's mobile phone. They can able to get it what is happening.
Sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm sure there are many more questions, but after this we are going to have a dance recital, following which there's going to be a tea break, and do catch hold of Mr. Pandyala. Don't let him drink any tea. Let him explain all the questions, the answers to the questions. And right now, may I call upon June Malia, member of the West Bengal Commission for Protecting Child Rights, and she is going to felicitate the Advisor of Law and Justice, Boards of Affairs and Treasures and Accounts, Nagaland, Dr. Longgrinikan. Can we request Dr. Longgrinikan to please come to the dais, and he will be felicitated by Ms. June Malia. May I also call upon the ex-editor, former editor of Al-Ehdab News, Cairo, Egypt, Ms. Noha Samir El-Hewari. Ms. El-Hewari, can we request you to please come to the dais? Executive Editor of Al Arab News, Cairo, Egypt. And that is Dr. Longrini Khan is already with us. Thank you so much, sir. And Ms. Noha Samir, Executive Editor, Al Arab News, Cairo. And also Mr. Andrew Kuka, Technical Advisory of Ugandan Judiciary. Mr. Kuka. And we also have with us today a member of the Royal Thai Police. I do not have the temerity to try and pronounce his name, but he's usually known as Mr. Hun, so I will call him that. Mr. Andrew Kuka and Mr. Hun, Royal Thai Police member. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being part of our conference, and thank you, June. Bhutan, we have Ishilam and Izerlam. Can we request both of them to please come up? And we have Sudeshna Roy, member of the West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights and an eminent filmmaker, who is going to come up and felicitate Ishilam and Izerlam from the Royal Government of Bhutan. If you're there, could you please come up onto the dais? We have Sujata Kulathum, Deputy Chairperson, Sri Lanka. And we would also request Mr. Abul Hussain, who is the Project Director of the Ministry of Women and Children, Government of Bangladesh. From the Royal Government of Bhutan, Ishi and Izer La. From Bangladesh, we have Mr. Abul Hussain, Sujata Kulathum, Deputy Chairperson. From Sri Lanka, we also have Vijita Senivirathan, Additional Secretary of Development, Ministry of Women and Children Affairs, Sri Lanka. Vijita Senivirathan, she's coming. And we have Mrs. Ponang Ering Angu, Deputy Director, Department of Women and Child Development, Government of Arunachal Pradesh, India. Mrs. Ponang Ering Angu. There she is. We would also request Jean-Philippe, I think I can proceed this far and no further, from Global Funds to End Modern Slavery. Has the message been communicated? Jean-Philippe, thank you. And Dorcas, Secretary Public Prosecutions, Kenya. Dorcas, are you there? All right. Dorcas from Kenya. Thank you so much, Sudeshna. We are going to break for tea.
সবসময় কান্নাকাটি করতাম, ঈশ্বরের কাছে প্রার্থনা করতাম যে আমাদেরকে কে উদ্ধার করবে, কী করে আমরা যাব, হ্যাঁ কবে ছাড়া পাবো কি পাবো না, হয়তো বা আমার জীবনে ফিরে আসতে পারবো না, দেখতে পাবো না।
আর আমি গ্রামেই এমনি ছিলাম, তো আর আমাকে একটা মহিলা কাজ দেবো বলে আমাকে তাই নিয়ে এসেছিল। নিয়ে আসার পর আমি তো জানতাম না যে কোথায় নিয়ে যাচ্ছে। তারপরে রাত্রিরে নিয়ে এসেছিল, তারপরে আমাকে একটা খারাপ এরিয়াতে নিয়ে এসে ওখানে একটা রুমের মধ্যে রেখেছিল। আমাকে রেড লাইনের এরিয়াতে নিয়ে এসেছিল।
আমাকে যখন নিয়ে গেল ওখানে নিয়ে ওরা দিয়ে চলে গেল, আমি খুব কান্নাকাটি করছিলাম। করার পরে আমাকে ওদের মতো সাজিয়ে নিচে নিয়ে আসলো, নিয়ে আসার পরে অনেকে পছন্দ করেছিল। আমাকে মালিক যখন রুমে পাঠাতো, স্টাফগুলো ওখানকার স্টাফরা যখন পাঠাতো রুমে, আমি না গেলে খুব মানতো। ওরা একটা বোতল পুরো খাইয়ে দেবে, মালিক খাবে, আর জলের যে পাইপগুলো হয়, যে সরু সরু জলের পাইপগুলো, জলের পাইপ দেবে আর মারবে। আর মারবে কোথায়? শুধু পায়ের ঘাটে ঘাটে মারবে, হাতের গাঁটে মারবে, এখানে মারবে, এখানে মারবে, চারটে নেবে। আর এই আঙুলগুলোই যতক্ষণ নামাজ হবে না ততক্ষণ আমাদেরকে ছাড়বে। এই জায়গা সব মেয়েগুলো ভয়ে এক জায়গায় চুপ করে থাকবে, কেউ একটা আওয়াজ করবে।
তারপরে ওখানে আমার বোন খুব নির্যাতন হতো, শারীরিক সম্পর্ক করার জন্য করতো। আমি করতে চাইতাম না বলে আমার মারধর করতো, খালি পায়ে। দু তিনবার পালানোর চেষ্টা করেছিল, পালাতে পারিনি। মেরে পা ফুলিয়ে দিয়েছে, শুয়ে পড়ে থাকতাম। আমি এমনি 6-7 বছরের ছিলাম তখন ওই বাড়িতে ওরা খুব টর্চার করতো। এমনি চোখে গুঁড়ো লঙ্কা দিয়ে দিত, কাঁচা লঙ্কা খাইয়ে হাতটা বেঁধে দিয়ে রেখে দিত আমাকে। আমি খুব চেতলাতাম, করতাম, তো শোনার মতন ছিল না, অমনিভাবে ওরা টর্চার করতো। আমি একবার পালিয়ে গেছিলাম, একটা বাজে লোক বয়স্ক করে, তখন ওই লোকটাকে পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছে, দিয়ে লোকটা যা ইচ্ছা তাই তো করলো। আর আমি খুব কষ্ট করছি, খুব কাঁদছিলাম, চিল্লাচ্ছিলাম, তাও আমাকে ছাড়েনি। তারপর ওরা দরজাও খুলেনি। তারপরে আমি খুব কষ্ট পেয়েছি, তারপর লোকটা চলে গেছে। আমি খুব কাঁদছিলাম, কান্নার পরে তারপর আস্তে আস্তে আমাকে ওইসব কাজগুলো করতে হয়েছে।
তারপরে এমনি যখন কাস্টমার আসতো তখন এমনি কাজ করতে হতো সারাদিন। যখন আমি ওখানে ঢুকে গেছি, তো যখন আমার সঙ্গে 1 বছর প্রায় হয়ে গেছে, তখন আমি এটাই আমার জীবনে লাইফে বেছে নিয়েছিলাম যে আমি যদি রাস্তায় এমনি ভালো হয়ে বেড়াই তো আমাকে কেউ বলবে না যে আমি ভালো, সবাই আমার দিকে খারাপ নজরেই দেখবে।
যখন আমার কাছে ফার্স্ট কাস্টমার এসেছিল তখন আমি বলছি আমার সাথে এরকম করো না, আমি করতে পারবো না, আমি এসব কাজ করি না। তখন ও গিয়ে ওকে ছাদের বাড়িতে আমাকে বিক্রি করে দিচ্ছে, ওই লোকটার কাছে গিয়ে বলে দিয়েছে। বলে দেওয়ার পর সে গিয়ে ফের ওরকম মারধর করেছে। যখন আমি প্রথম কাস্টমার নিয়ে আসে তখন খুব পেন হয়, ব্লাড আসে।
যখন আমাকে ফার্স্ট টাইম পোস্ট করেছিল কাজের ওই খারাপ কাজ করার জন্য, তো আমার মনে অনেক কষ্ট হয়েছিল যে আমি ভাবলাম কোথায় এসে গেছি। আর এরকম লোক জানি না যে শুনি না তার সঙ্গে শারীরিক সম্পর্ক করতে হবে, তো তার জন্য অনেক খারাপ লেগেছিল আমার।
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for not only watching but going through this experience with us. And now we would once again we feel very privileged in felicitating some of our most distinguished guests. May I request Mr. Prashun Bhumik, member of the West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights, to please come and felicitate Mrs. Bhavna Gupta, Additional Commissioner of Police, Howrah Police Commissionerate. Can we request Mrs. Bhavna Gupta to please come up? Mr. Amrit Kumar, Director of Prosecutions, Karnataka. Ananta Tirtha, Scientist of the National Informatics Center. Mrs. Bhavna Gupta, Additional Commissioner of Police, Howrah Police Commissionerate. Thank you, ma'am. Amrit Kumar, Mr. Amrit Kumar, Director of Prosecutions, Karnataka. We would also call upon Ananta Tirtha and Amalocha, who is the Special Public Prosecutor of West Bengal. We have Mr. Ananta Tirtha, Scientist from National Informatics Center. Omolocha, Special Public Prosecutor, West Bengal. And Mr. Balakrishnan, IPS, Joint Commissioner of Police, Greater Chennai Police. Mr. Balakrishnan, IPS. Thank you so much. We also thank Mr. Prashun Bhumik. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a panel with the theme, Networks That End Impunity, Bridges. We will have a short video outlining the theme of this panel. So, can we request the moderator, Merlin Frida, Director of Operations, IJM Chennai, to please come up and lead her team of panelists, who are Sri Anupam Agarwal from TCS, Dietmar Roller, Executive Director from IJM Germany. We have Sri Vithal Bharadwaj, Regional CISO, Leader GE. We have Dr. Karnika Seth, Supreme Court lawyer. We have Srijit, who is an IPS, IG of Kerala Police. So we welcome all of you, and may I request once again a member of the West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights, Shakila Sultana Shams, to please come and felicitate the moderator as also the panelists. From IJM Chennai, the Director of Operations, Merlin Frida. And her panelists. Dr. Karnika Seth. Sri Anubhava Agarwal. And Dietmar Roland. It's over to the moderator, Merlin Frida.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've been trying to retain my smile for some time, but it's been very hard, especially after the film was played here. Amit's film did impact me a lot, and that tells us that there is rampant impunity. And this session is going to focus on how we can work together, how we can bring in all stakeholders together, have a multi-stakeholder approach to end impunity. And that gives me hope, and that puts the smile back on my face, right? Because you live in a world where you don't have any hope when you hear about the dark web, right? Mr. Pendiala's presentation very clearly said, 4% of web, just 4% of the web has normal internet. And 96% of the web is dark web, right? When I heard those numbers, my question was, are we creating a safe environment for our children? We are not talking about just vulnerable communities. And who are these vulnerable communities? Our own children. My child, my teenagers who are sitting with me, living with me in my house are vulnerable, right? So I don't want anybody who is seated here to see this as an issue that's beyond their house, right? It's in every house, technology is coming in, sneaking into back doors, and we're together going to find solution. And what I love about this conference is that the program flow is excellent. We talked about trends yesterday, we talked about challenges yesterday, and today we are talking about bridges, and in an hour we are going to talk about solutions. And people who are seated here, please know that we are prescribing solution to the globe, sitting in this room, right? Right here, we have so many experts, and with me here are delegates who are going to prescribe solutions, and many are seated here. Almost everybody who is seated here is going to contribute towards creating a solution that's going to contribute towards ending this crime of sexual exploitation among children in digital era. So that's a hope. And I would want to congratulate Mrs. Ananya Chakraborty, the Child Rights Commission's chairperson, and the Chief Minister of West Bengal, for giving this opportunity for all the delegates to come together, delegates from 17 countries to come together, delegates from different parts of the country to come together and prescribe a solution in the state of, from the state of West Bengal. And you have to be feeling so proud that solution to this issue is coming from the state. I'm so proud to be part of this wonderful session where we are going to talk about bridges. Well, we have experts. I'm here just raising some questions. I'm just a facilitator, right? But people who are sitting right and next to me are going to talk about bridges, going to talk about strategies that can narrow down the gaps between multiple stakeholders. So with me, to my right, is Anupam Agrawal. He's the co-founder of India Internet Foundation. He's also working with TCS, and he is an IT practitioner. He's working with TCS. He's a co-founder of India Internet Foundation, and he is going to add a lot of value to the conversations that we would have in this session. Welcome, Mr. Anupam Agrawal. Thank you. To my left is Mr. Bital Bharadwaj. He is Chief Information Security Officer, General Electric, Global Regions, South Asia, and Greater China. He has accomplished several accomplishments. He is an accomplished cyber security leader with 20 years of experience. Just understand what we have here, wealth of knowledge, right? He currently serves as a Chief Information Security Officer at GE. In this role, he is responsible to drive cybersecurity strategy and cyber risk programs across all GE regions, except America. So we are so proud to have you with us, Mr. Bital Bharadwaj. We have Dr. Karnika Seth. Karnika Seth is the cyber law expert. She is an internationally renowned cyber law expert. I'm glad that we have someone who is not only an expert on the field, but she's also a great author, right? She's author and she's a practicing lawyer at the Supreme Court in India. She is in several panels. She is in the panel of UNICEF as well. She is going to add value to our conversations today. Welcome, Dr. Karnika Seth. Thank you. We have Dietmar Roller. Dietmar Roller is Executive Director, International Justice Mission, Germany. He's been attached to Germany IJM for the past 5 years. He has years of experience from the development world. If you have time, just stop by him, ask any question on development sector. I'm sure he will be able to give you an answer, and you will not go without an answer from him. Welcome, Mr. Dietmar. We have an IPS officer from Kerala. He is Mr. Srijit, IPS officer. He is working with Crime Branch, and he is the State Nodal Officer of Anti-Human Trafficking Unit. And he is also into cybercrime prevention against women and children. And I want to throw a spotlight on this. He's a member of many projects like Nirmaya, High Court Juvenile Justice Committee. He's a member in that committee, and lots he has accomplished. I wouldn't have time to call out all of that. It's my privilege to welcome you to this panel, sir. Thank you. We exactly have 35 minutes more. I ate up 5 minutes. Anyway, I just wanted to know who is here so that you can raise the right question to the right person. That will help us end this session at the right time. That's the reason I introduced them to you. Mr. Pandeyala, in his presentation, was talking about predictive approach. He said reactive approach is not the only approach that we have to take. We have to think about proactive approach, and we should also talk about predictive approach, right? So my first question is to Mr. Bital, who's sitting next to me, on the left side. See, the crime is navigating, right? The crime is navigating from state to state. The crime is navigating from country to country. Yesterday we heard that the crime is there in the clouds, right? As a cyber professional, what do you think you can contribute towards ending impunity?
That's a very pertinent question there. So let me answer that from the perspective of what we do as organizations to protect our crown jewels, which is our intellectual property. In this case, I think it's far more precious crown jewel, which is children here, right? So I can share that perspective. And also as a cybersecurity professional who's based in India, what we can bring to the table, I can share that as well. So I'll start from what we can do as a community, as a fraternity from a cybersecurity standpoint. I came across a report yesterday from Gartner, and it said India has got the highest percentage of cybersecurity professionals based in India, right next to US and then UK. So we are number one in terms of cybersecurity professionals. At the same time, the part of problem we are discussing here is something, a monster which we created as IT companies or IT people, IT professionals, digital professionals, right? So I think it's a responsibility of this community as well to help solve the problem. Now, out of every digital technology which we see today, every function of digital, the one function which stands out is cybersecurity. This community is so well connected. Every city, every metro city sees at least 2 or 3 security conferences happening every month. So, and this fraternity is very, very well connected. And I'm saying that is beyond the CSR responsibilities of those organizations. And these guys come out as individuals. So I spend a day every month just to go out and meet with my community and work on some of these things. So I would say the first thing which we can bring to the table is to engage that community to address far bigger problem in terms of educating and raising the awareness. So right now our fraternity focuses mainly on going to good schools and educating parents, teachers and children there. But I think the society which we have to address in terms of raising the awareness is different. So my suggestion here would be that let's continue the engagements. I can facilitate my fraternity and then engage them more to raise awareness. That's number one. From the organization standpoint, I think we rely upon, and I think Mr. Pendiala raised absolutely right things in the morning. So I'll double click on just a couple of them there. He was talking about the web crawlers, he's talking about the threat intel. Now the way we run our organizations as a security function, we depend on the threat intel feeds. And these are provided by the third-party companies. So technology is out there today which can see through the different, say, chat rooms, say, different websites across dark web. So capabilities exist today, it's just that they're looking for something else. So if we bring that methodology to the enforcement world, which is policing world, you will have far more insights into where these things are happening. The way I see the whole thing, the problem is in 3 different boxes really. One, when it comes to the content, right? So content developers, right? You can create these videos, you can have the live chats on the phone. So we need to have something from the content developer standpoint, which is essentially the mobile phones and those kind of things. And second is about the distribution. Mr. Pendiala was alluding towards ISPs, but the fact is ISPs have not done their job so far. If they would have, then we wouldn't have the cybersecurity problem today, because they are the gatekeepers for the internet, right? So they have not been effective. So how we distribute the content is another area. And third is about, well, in the end, you have to solicit the customers. I'm talking about the traffickers here, right? And that is where things like threat intel feed in this space can really help.
That's excellent. In fact, I didn't know that we have the highest number of cybersecurity professionals in India. For global solution, you put together those in the other countries, and in India. I'm sure we will be able to combat the crime, right? That's giving hope. Thank you so much for throwing light on that. And in addition, he said, yes, we can have a community of cyber security professionals and ask them to come together and help them raise awareness so that we will be able to contribute towards combating the crime. One basic question that I have to you is, as an expert, have you or your organization contributed towards combating any cybercrime? Don't just talk about sexual exploitation among children, in partnership with law enforcement officers, because we are trying to bridge the gap between law enforcement and cyber security professionals. So is there a best practice you think you can share, or a case study, if that's possible?
So without quoting my organization, in fact, any organization who runs a cybersecurity program have to work with agencies. In every country they operate in, otherwise you just have the one side of the story. We have our own threat intel sources. which we share with the agencies and vice versa. So knowledge sharing, the information sharing is one area, I think, which each one of us as an organization have to rely upon.
That's helpful. Thank you very much, Mr. Bital. I'm moving on to Mr. Anupam Agarwal. Mr. Anupam, we have been talking about the encryption in WhatsApp. You know, WhatsApp has backdoors, right? We heard a presentation from one of the students, Tanvi, from Heritage School here in Kolkata yesterday. She said, all that my fellow students and I long for is safe environment, safe net. And how can we provide the safety net knowing that WhatsApp is encrypted?
Okay. So WhatsApp is encrypted, but it has got a backdoor. So let us be very clear about that. What we lack is accountability of WhatsApp in India. Till very recently, like a month back, there has been a nodal officer which has been appointed in India for WhatsApp. Before that, if you have an issue with WhatsApp, you only had an email ID to write to. That's the only recourse you had. Now you have a person here. What is still missing is that WhatsApp is not a legal registered entity still in India. So unless and until we have that policy enablement from the government should be very strict with WhatsApp, saying that if you want to operate in India, register yourself, appoint a director, appoint a person who is the nodal body, who is the nodal person. And then you can ask them if you want to search for fake news, if you want to find out what is the source of the message, you can very easily do that. Because technically, I understand that there is a session key which is inside WhatsApp, which is stored, and if you take that session key, you can actually trace back the message from one device to the other. If you can counter that, it doesn't happen, but if I can counter it back technically, because you see that double tick which becomes blue, unless and until you have a mechanism to see all those messages, those ticks will never turn blue. Okay, you have encountered a situation where you have changed your device, WhatsApp, from one phone to another phone. You have seen that the old messages comes back. Okay, the messages are not lost in transit. Those messages comes back. It can only happen when the public key which is there is exchanged by the WhatsApp technical team. So there are ways. What we need is government to be strict with WhatsApp to ensure that there is an office, there is a director here.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. As he said, see, WhatsApp is encrypted, but there is backdoor, right? How can we ensure that our children are safe as they watch WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp videos, WhatsApp, as they go through communication. That's wonderful to know that we have a WhatsApp nodal officer in India. Did you know that earlier? I didn't know. But now that we know that there is a WhatsApp nodal officer, I have a question to you. Do you think every country has a WhatsApp nodal officer? Because here we are talking about global solution.
For every country, I'll not be able to comment, but in US, if they want a WhatsApp message to be traced, they can do it. Okay, so that's the benefit of having.
Any other observances you have seen in combating the crime?
So I'll raise another point here that, which is again a little technical point, because that's my community and that's the multi-stakeholder reason why you brought me here. It is not to talk about the policy that, so one of the technical solutions which I can again talk about is, because I manage a technical community of network, a technical community of people, okay, that if today, if you are trying to reach to a content server which is based out of, say, Chennai, and you are sitting in Calcutta, the movement actually goes from Calcutta to US, San Francisco, and then comes back to Chennai, and then it comes back to you, okay? Which in the internet world, it is okay. That's how internet was supposed to work. But if we introduce the concept of regional routing of traffic, okay, I think that's where we will create a bridge to ensure that the traffic moves within India, and it will be much easier for people like Srijit to actually go after the people, go after the content where it is actually uploaded. Because if the traffic moves across countries, then it becomes difficult for you to actually trace, number one. Second, you enter into that MLAT system of things which doesn't work. So regional routing is one of the possible technical solutions to go ahead and do it. So just for information, as part of India Internet Foundation, we have started a regional internet exchange point in Calcutta. That's a small exchange point which has a traffic of around 1 gig or so. But but it is creating a community of technical people around it. Okay, so you have two benefits. One, you create a local community of technical people, and secondly, you are able to trace the traffic back to its origin. So it helps in dissecting the problem and reaching much closer to the problem.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm moving on to Karnika Seth. Dr. Karnika Seth, you are a Supreme Court lawyer and you are also a cyber law expert. When it comes to law in combating this crime, do you think there could be a better enforcement? Do you see any gaps?
First of all, IGM has put me in the right panel because I do consider myself as a bridge among stakeholders. While I belong to the legal fraternity, I actually work with a lot of stakeholders, including industry, corporate, cybersecurity, education institutions, law enforcement, and so on and so forth. It's a good question. Law, as we, today when we talk about cyber crimes, we know the pace of the rate at which cyber crimes is increasing in the country and globally. And child online protection has taken a center stage, particularly because certain PILs have been brought about in the Supreme Court regarding child pornography. We have this case of Kamlesh Vaswani versus Union of India, if you've read it in the papers or otherwise. It's very difficult to curb child pornography, and at this center stage, Supreme Court is seized with the matter, and they have observed that we have sections in the law. It's not that the law is not in place. The enforcement of the law becomes a challenge for all stakeholders, including law enforcement. How do you trace, where the offender is, from where a clip has generated, and how quickly it spreads across, it goes viral in the whole ecosystem, and where do we find out its origination, and how do we stop the further distribution is a huge challenge, if you will all agree with me. And not only that, the new systems of encryption and like we have on WhatsApp, for instance, we have other social media platforms where the platform as such says we disclaim liability because we don't know which third party is putting in the content. So that's a huge issue. The way the functioning of this whole internet and the virtual space is today is itself posing a challenge to curbing these crimes. So that's the first thing which I'd like to comment. Secondly, it's not that the law is not adequate. I believe the implementation needs more, I would say, technical collaboration with the law enforcement, which we are trying to do through trainings and introducing new tools and mechanisms. But it is not as caught up that speed that which it needs at this point. That's my observation. I train at the CBI Academy. I'm a trainer to the Law Enforcement National Judicial Academy at Bhopal. We've trained lakhs and lakhs of batches of police officers and judicial officers by now. Yet I am of the view that we need to really catch up on this. That's my observation again. I just want to share one very interesting real-life case which I've handled way back in 5 years ago. There was a girl whose parents approached me and said that our innocent picture of a girl, or maybe from Facebook, they had posted a very harmless picture, and that went viral after being morphed. It went on to 15 to 20 websites, and it was showing the girl in a very bad light. And the whole social stigma attached to this, if there's a morphed image of a girl, 11-year-old girl, and that was shocking. It just went viral within a span of 24 hours. And when this came to limelight, it was partly also covered in media, but then not showing obviously the name of the person, the girl. What we did was immediate legal notices to the registrars of those websites where it was showing and the hosting companies. Within 36 hours, those photographs were taken off. I want to touch on this case also because we have solutions, but people are not aware of them. This is a guideline, 36-hour guideline. If an affected party writes to the social media platform provider or any website where this has been, put up, they ought to respond within the time frame. If they don't, they can be made liable. This is something I wanted to, have this message sent across. And the area needs a lot of treatment. This is one of the books I authored for the National Commission of Child Rights. It's called The Child Victims of Cybercrime. It's a toolkit for investigators to understand the various threats children face online. Plus, there is another book called Protection of Children on the Internet, which I authored in 2015. And I recently finished my PhD in the area. So it's a lot of work needed. I still feel, even after 5 years of putting in my work and effort in the area, that I have so much to explore more. That's what I feel.
Thank you very much, and thank you for introducing those resources for the benefit of the communities here. I'm not undermining Mr. Dietmore. You're going to answer last. I'm going to ask a question to Mr. Srijit, as this question is going to flow from where Dr. Karnika stopped. She said, implementation of law needs collaboration, and she said, enforcement of law is a challenge. And if I can refer to what Mr. Pendeala in his presentation said, 98% of the cases struggle without evidence, right? So to you, Mr. Srijit, what is the legal requirement you would expect from cyber security professionals?
See, actually I would like to point out the enormity of the problem first. At any given point of time, you have 750,000 online predators preying on our children. Out of every 4 girls, 1 child is abused online. Out of every 6 boys, 1 boy is abused online at any given point of time. And our legal system, internationally, nationally, and even at the state level, leaves a lot to be desired. International level, Anupam was actually pointing out about the ML80s and all that. There's something called a dual criminality, which is a requirement for any kind of request to be entertained by another country. And the greatest handicap that we have with respect to international investigations, with respect to cyber crimes, is that we don't have a common protocol for at least 10 countries. We don't have. So the laws are different for every country, and we find that the offender can sit anywhere in the world and offend anybody in our country. That's number one. Number two is that, we have a lot of legal constraints with which we have to handle child sexual abuse. We had an operation called Operation Big Daddy back in Kerala, which started off by, there was a website called Kochu Sundarigal, which means little beauties in Malayalam, in which a lot of images of children were posted, and they were either semi-nude or totally nude, and there were a lot of comments being posted on net also, which we thought is a real clear cyber crime against children. Now when we investigated, we arrested around 7, we have charge sheeted 7, another 18 are in the pipeline, we are about to, prosecute them. The most important thing that the court asked was, is there a real victim? Who is the victim? So there were only images and there was no real victim. And the closest that we got to the real victim, we tried to identify one of the images with one of the victims. The family has gone against us in the court. So now, what is the need for a real victim is a $64 million question. Because we know that these people are posting images and posting comments on the net, and they would actually be preying on other children, for which we don't have any evidence. But we have to book them. Number two is that, there's, I don't know whether you all have seen a particular movie which is called Sweetie, about a digital image hosted on the net by an NGO called Teredi Homes based out in Amsterdam. There were some representatives from Netherlands yesterday over here. I think they would bear me out. Actually, they posted a digital image called Sweetie on the net, and the Sweetie was supposed to be a child from Philippines who was into webcam child sex tourism. And then they identified around 1,000 people who were swarming at her out of these 750,000, and 103, the highest number happened to be from India. And I'm ashamed to tell you that 13 are from Kerala. Now, Interpol senses these details, and we can at best keep surveillance on them. Because again, there's no real image, there's no real victim, there's nobody who's been abused as per the Indian law. Next again, the most important thing is, we try to employ decoys in such operations. The Supreme Court has very categorically said that, you can employ decoys only. You have to establish that it was a crime which was already in operation and which couldn't be prevented unless a decoy was employed. You cannot initiate a crime with a decoy. And without decoys, it's rather nigh impossible to trace such, with the levels of encryption so high, as Anupam rightly pointed out. Next is that, the child sexual abuse on the cyber world doesn't happen overnight. It starts with grooming, then it goes into bullying, and then finally child sexual exploitation takes place. So now we are waiting and watching for the exploitation to actually happen. And then, even when it happens, if the child doesn't report, there is no complaint, there is no criminal process. Now, there was a particular instance, there is a lot of cultural stigma and cultural differences also involved in the process. Say, for instance, a child was being groomed and bullied by saying that it was actually a male child, that his father was infertile. His father is infertile, so how were you born? So now there is absolutely nothing in our laws which, at best it can be something around 500 IPC, as she rightly points out in her book. But 500 IPC is such a cumbersome process to get it listed. You got all the stigma attached with it in the society, which comes along with it. And then when this was brought to our notice, we wrote to the Facebook. So they asked us, what is wrong if somebody is infertile? So they found nothing wrong with telling that somebody was infertile. And we were stuck. And the law enforcers were made to look like fools in front of the child. So these lacunae are very much on the rise in our system, and we have to have, I would say that, the IT Act only mentions about 67A and 67B, where actually some kind of abuse or sexually explicit images have to be transmitted. So all those processes which stop minus that doesn't become an offense. So this is one of the greatest problems that I, as an investigator, do face. And one more thing I'll tell you, the latest law which has come about in 2013 regarding trafficking, that I think is one of the best laws which we have ever had, best sections of law. But even there what happens is that, I was just talking to ma'am, the word exploitation per se has not been defined in Indian law at all. We always take it for granted that everybody knows what exploitation is all about. But when it comes to brass tacks, when it comes to prosecution, when it comes to legal hurdles, when it comes to courts, you have to have a very explicit definition of what the word means. And 370 section actually tells you that, you can actually haul up somebody for the very purpose of exploitation without mentioning what exploitation means. So these are all the requirements that an investigator would require on a broad spectrum. And maybe somebody else can fill in on this.
Sure. Yeah. As you add, Karnika, you can also talk about, if you can respond to what Mr. Srijit said, if there is no victim support, we are not able to penalize, right? Is there a way we can address the gap?
Well, surely. First, that answer. In case there is a tangible proof that child pornographic images are, say, stored on a particular person's computer, in US, even in India, it's possible to use that evidence to prosecute. I feel that even if there's no tangible victim, one should be able to argue, because on the basis of what is there as evidence in the computers, at least the sections of child pornography can be proven. That's there. Secondly, I feel it's very important for me to share here that reporting child pornography, sexual harassment is not an option. It is a mandatory thing under our POCSO Act. A lot of people don't know this. This is mandatory. It's not that you can just choose to overlook that and say, okay, we are not concerned directly, so we won't report. It is something mandatory. not only for the social media platforms or ISPs, but for any and every single person in this auditorium or otherwise, right? So this is very important for me to share. Secondly, there are hotlines available, child line. There are so many other incident response, their state commissions also have their own lines. There is for example, a e-box button by the NCPCR also. I'm sure West Bengal State Commission also has equally effective means to, receive these complaints. So we need to put that in publicity. We need to publicize those. That's important as well. And after reporting increases, I'm sure the convictions will increase. But two more things. One, the judiciary, the way we have the court system, we need definitely more POCSO courts in India. We are lacking there in terms of implementing the law. The provisions do exist. And another thing is that while these provisions are there, even the police officers, the welfare officers may not be there, the public prosecutors are not enough, the trainings are missing. These are the gaps which we need to bridge. This is how I feel about it.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I just wanted to add on to what she was just mentioning about POCSO cases. I had reviewed 2881 cases which were registered in Kerala in 2017 under POCSO. And we have a decimal rate of 18% max conviction under POCSO. And actually my police chief wanted me to study as to what is going wrong with all the POCSO prosecutions. There were some studies done and we found out that out of the 2881 cases which are registered under POCSO, around 70% of the cases revolved on cyber sexual abuse. It started with grooming and bullying and then went on and on and on. This next fact which came to our notice was that out of 15 cases looked into, only the 15th case had a rank outsider as an accused. All the other 14 were somebody who was having some kind of a custodial relationship with a child. So now, ma'am was mentioning about mandatory reporting. I fully agree, fully endorse the view that it should be mandatorily reported. But now what is happening on the flip side is, when the offender is from the family, the pressure on the victim not to depose mounts. Now the capital punishment also coming in, it is increasing. Initially if it's the grandfather who's abused the child, the question which is being posed to the victim is that, are you going to intern the grandfather, your grandfather? Now the question which is about to be raised is that, are you going to kill your grandfather? So the pressure on the child mounts day by day. So it's actually not a police problem only. And now, out of 300 victims I personally interviewed on POCSO cases, most of them had reiterated their statements at least 40 to 50 times. The victim was asking me, sir, you're the 39th person I'm reciting my experience to. How many more rapes should I undergo? So there is absolutely no legal platform wherein the victim is made to depose once and we take it at face value.
Yeah. Honorable Justice Geeta Mittal,
yes,
she had led this initiative. She led this initiative where child-friendly courts have been introduced. Yeah. So they will only give their testimony once, even in a video conference, by way of video conference, so that there's minimum harassment to the kid.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and I appreciate what Mr. Srijit said. There is a need for more social workers. Maybe I think bridges, when you talk about bridges, let us not just stop with these stakeholders, right? We need to go beyond. We need to provide psychosocial support to the victims, and how we can do that. We may not have time to address that here. Keep that at the back of your mind when you talk about solutions, right? Yes, you have a point to make.
So, a couple of points.
Yes.
Just one on this POSCO. In TCS, we have a mandatory web-based tutorial which everyone has to go through. If you don't go through it every year, your salary might be stopped. So if you don't go through that course every year, your salary can be stopped. Okay, so there is a web-based tutorial course in our organization which is pushed to everybody. So awareness creation can happen and should happen from the corporates as well. So that's one.
No, in Kerala, it's not a question of awareness at all. The question is of stigma.
Yeah.
The familial stigma which is attached to, a POCSO case actually inhibits the family as well as the victim, and more so if it's a person from the family.
Yes, totally get what you say here, and we are recording and we will see what we can do together. Right, my last question to Mr. Dietmar. Thank you for patiently waiting for the question. We've been talking about a lot of stakeholders, right? And one stakeholder that we are not focusing now is global investors. I know it is not directly contributing to what we are discussing, but my question to you is that, see, technology has taken the barriers for global investors to come and invest, gain a lot, right? As they do, what are they giving back to the communities? I'm not talking about CSR, right? I'm just talking about global investors' support to communities, to this issue of combating sexual exploitation among children and women, and what are we doing to that?
Let me first start with an observation which I feel is important for all of us here. And it is, you see, if we look into the issue of sexual exploitation of children online, we are talking, and this came out during the conference many times, of a kind of borderless crime with a kind of opportunity crime, where people go in and really have a good opportunity to make money. And I think what we need globally is a kind of 3 C's in the design. It's connect, collaborate, and cooperate. And this means even over the border, talking for the law enforcement system of the countries. We cannot do this only if we look on our own local issues. So this is one thing I just find when I was sitting there and listening, I thought we have to rethink our paradigm sometimes, looking from the very small and forget that there is a kind of global framework in it, and from all sides we can bring in and can collaborate together. When it comes to the global investors or to the for-profit sector, of course they not only invent the things, the internet and others, and make also business out of it. I feel that there is, at least from my perspective from Germany, an openness also to collaborate, to come in. I give you an example. I recently was sitting with people from Western Union. So this is one of the big money transfer all around the globe, maybe even the big one. And when I was sitting with them, we discussed the issue of what are you doing? Because your network is a network who also helps to feed the system of online children exploitation and others. And they said, listen, we have a lot of things because we see the problem. We have our own investigators looking in. We seek and look for collaboration wherever we can. And what came out that we have a special training that our people on the counter can identify patterns and can report the patterns to us so that we can give it to the law enforcement system. And then at the same discussion, there was another man from the BKA, this is the German Federal Police, and he agreed. He said, yes, we get this. And even we trace sometimes girls, or very often, there are even hundreds of girls in a month we can trace back to South Asia, but we don't know who is responsible in the countries like India, like Bangladesh and others, where we can hook on and can collaborate with. So there is a gap, there is something which is not working, and there I also think when we talk about collaboration, we should not only talk about the law enforcement system, the government, we should not talk only about the for-profit, but also the civil society as in between, as also a bridge building, has a bridge building opportunity in this.
Thank you very much. Because you said it is a responsibility of civil society also with all other stakeholders, I'm going to raise a question to one of the delegates sitting in the audience. He is Mr. Mohammed Asif Iqbal. He is the Associate Director with PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I'm glad that you're here. He wanted me to inform you that he lost his sight when he was 12. But he's been doing a lot for protecting children's rights. And I'm going to ask him, how do you think, or on what areas do you think collaboration could happen to protect the rights of children?
Thank you so much for asking me once again. So I have been working for PwC at a number of assignments. Two of the best practices that I have seen when I was actually involved in social inclusion strategy designed for Aadhaar, Unique Identity Authority of India, where we actually conducted pilot enrollment for the survivors, and I'm not supposed to reveal the information. So the first strategy for those to bring those excluded, vulnerable, marginalized group into the government identity systems where they can actually avail government services. Then the second best practices that I have seen, even in my own state of West Bengal, was an Accenture solutions of creating an app, a mobile app, and which is actually used by some of the NGO partners. Again, I'm not supposed to name names. Is to identify those areas where young children are vulnerable for possible trafficking, and they're actually using that, and then this NGO partners are actually designing their social interventions to counter or combat or to take the next steps. So these are the two solutions which I have seen personally and I have been witness. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed, for sharing that knowledge with us. And I'm having just one last question to someone in the audience. He is Mr. Aditya Roy Chowdhury. He's been working with corporates for over 3 decades, and he has lots of experience because when it comes to protecting children from exploitation, because he has a passion for protecting them, just as you and I have. And I just want to listen to him. You're there? Yes. Can I ask you, what could be the best solution when you talk about bridges, right? What is it that we have to have attention to? What is it that we have to give attention to when you talk about bridges?
I'm not going to be arrogant in this August gathering to provide a solution. But what I am going to say very briefly is that the August panel has already said we need to build more bridges, and there couldn't be a more apt term. All stakeholders, but especially to the wonderful police people from various countries who are here, I would request you to demand, to reach out to the corporates like us and demand technological solutions. To PwC, Krishna Shastri would be glad to help you. To Anupam out there, I'm sure Anupam, TCS is represented in various parts of the world and you would just reach out anytime. And to somebody as passionate as Srijit here, you need to just demand the solutions and we will reach out and help you. And when we say we can't do it, make us do it. So the bridges can be built across and we are ready to give you those technological solutions. I'm not sure we can reach out at every sphere, but the technical solutions will be there in front. So please do help us build the bridges. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for placing your thoughts here. Unless we demand, we are not going to get it, right? If we have to find a solution, all of us here have to demand from one another, right? All of us are together. If we are not demanding to each other, we are not going to find the solution. And stay tuned for the solutions session. Before that, maybe we will take 3 questions. Can we quickly do that? Now this is your time. Yes, please.
I wanted to ask a question to Mr. Pandya. So I could not get the chance. Here to Mr. Srijit. Sir, you have told that it is there a dearth of evidence, and as a result, it is many a times and at times closure of POXO cases are very difficult. See, as we all know, POXO is a victim-centric legislation, and is it required to have evidence? Because one legislation is not to be dealt in isolation. It has to be read with another legislation, maybe POXO and CRPC, maybe POXO and juvenile justice principles, because entire juvenile justice systems are standing on 16 principles. In our state of West Bengal of India, I can cite 2 cases, 15 days back, where within 10 months, the case has been closed. As per provision, it is 12 months. And charge sheet being given in 10 days. It is 15 days. You will find this case in the website of Kolkata Police. And the perpetrator, the accused being sentenced to life imprisonment and 2 lakh fine. So those stories of hopes are there. Now, I have 2 submissions to this August gathering. Since this is an international workshop, can West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights under the leadership of Aruna Chakraborty and several other members, can this global community came out with a book, Do's and Don'ts of Cyber Use, and it be global books, and IGM and this, and I have a submission, another, can this August gathering, at least the delegate can form a WhatsApp group, global WhatsApp group, whatever way. Thirdly, in the first session, wherein we talked about proactive, I feel that monitoring and regulation would not be of great help. I think age-appropriate sharing of information to the children and the users of digital gadget is the need of the hour. As you have said, sir, that India having large number of cyber security personnel, I am worried, maybe ignorant, that whether India or several other country has large number of cyber literate personnel. That's a question for me. Thank you, sir.
I'll have just a comment to add to that. I admit regarding POXO cases, yes, we can do better, of course. But regarding that, as rightly pointed out, there should be a plethora of demands from our side. The most important demand from an investigating officer would be to at least believe us. None of the statements given to a police officer is believable as evidence in a court of law. It's high time we change this in India. You have to trust a police officer at least when it comes to issues like child sexual abuse online.
Absolutely.
Number two is that, all the international investigating agencies, and we have had liaison with Australian police, Canadian police, we have had workshops with them. What they normally do is that with the level of encryption which is available for the normal user, when they first apprehend an accused who's online abusing a child, they actually take a statement from him that, if you're willing to cooperate with us, you'll get a lesser punishment. And then they proceed on to the other co-accused, which is something unthinkable in India. Because, no statement which is self-incriminating is admissible as evidence in a court of law. I am putting forth these two demands before this august audience, and I want an NGO like IGM to project it to the government and the powers that be, to make the statement admissible to a police officer, admissible as evidence in court. You can maybe decide the rank. You can say that it should be to your device P, or maybe somebody is, for starters, it can be like that.
Yes.
Second is that in such cases, even self-incriminating statements, if digitally corroborated further, has to be admissible in evidence. This may be considered.
Just on the evidence part, I want to just share this, that whatever is available in electronic media, even if it's a WhatsApp or a Facebook, post, or any ad online, any material, it can be proven in the court of law. So all you need is a 65B certificate authenticated by a chief technology officer. If not, then even if the person is using that system, he can also depose and give that affidavit. So it's not as if those things are not admissible in a court of law. That needs to be very, very clearly laid down.
Thank you very much.
Ma'am, we have to educate the lower presiding officers on a large scale.
We will do that.
As we are suffering in the lower courts.
Anyway, you can see collaboration started happening here, right? And it's going to be alive for some time. Yeah. I can take 2 more questions. Quick questions. Please know that we're talking about bridges. Let us not deviate from the topic. If you're talking about solutions, we have to stay tuned for the next session. Yes.
See, you earlier said that there is no victim support. Can an amendment in the law which makes mere possession of sexually explosive material penal punishable, can that solve the problem? See, like we have in NDPS, we have a psychotropic substance. It may not be administered, it may not be given to a victim. But even if one possesses, is found to be in possession of that substance, that is potential of mischief, can an amendment law where we make mere possession of this, the material,
already an offense.
So
it is already an offense.
Then we don't need the victim.
Section 15 of the POXO, and if you read section 67B of the IT Act, very clearly says even storage, browsing, seeking, downloading of any child pornographic material is an offense which is punishable with 5 years of punishment.
Yeah.
So the problem is not that. For us to initiate an investigation, you need a complaint. Now we have a system with the Interpol where it's called IACOPS, which is relied on by at least 54 countries worldwide. I know who all are. I can actually find out. Actually, the method provided for this, it borders on hacking or cracking or whatever. You can actually find out who is actually downloading certain material. Now we are actually planning to have Operation Suo Moto proactively to nab them. We are actually in the process. But if we fail, suppose we go there and at the nick of the time he managed to delete everything, or it's not retrievable, then we got a very sorry figure and he can sue us for damages. Now, the FIR starts with a complaint in India. We should actually have something where we can actually act suo motu, just like that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Last question, yes. If any of you disagree, I know somebody there is disagreeing. If you disagree with Dr. Kandika or with Mr. Srijit, as they come down, please spend some time with them. They will be able to find us.
I disagree with the view expressed by Mr. Savistar. I disagree with the view. There must be a complaint for lodging a case. There is a provision, sir knows, 154 of the CRPC that says, with the knowledge of any court case, suo motu police can start case, then why to wait for lodging a complaint of the victim?
Totally, we are talking about collaboration. Sorry,
we'll sort it out. I'm just coming down.
Yeah, we can discuss. We can sit over lunch and have this conversation. This is not the time for us to debate. We are talking about bridges. Yes, sir, please. This is the last question.
I have one.
Yes.
No, I have a question.
As far as this police officer has said, the statement of a police has to be accepted. It is accepted. Nowhere in the CRPC or IPC, no one has said the statement made by the police officer will not be accepted. It will be accepted, provided it has to be corroborated. The evidence, confession given before the police only will not be accepted under 25 and 26 Evidence Act. 27 Evidence Act is for the rescue. So, things are very clear. But the thing is, the burden is more on the prosecution. We have to update ourselves.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You provided the answer. You said it has to be corroborated.
Yes, that's
now,
what you said.
Customs Act 108, Section 108, the very statement is admissible.
Yeah.
PMLA Act statement under Section 11(2), the very statement itself is admissible. No corroboration is required. Why do you need corroboration from a person like me? I'm as truthful as you are.
We're going to collaborate and let's see. We can take this conversation outside the realm. Please, we're going to do that, but this is not the time. Maybe we can organize a lunch table for you both to talk more. Thank you very much. One last comment from, yes.
It is just because, Vijit, the image of police is not that clean. Okay, so...
See, you have to decide on this. You have either got to clean us all or clean yourselves. I mean, it's...
Thank you very much, Mr. Srijit.
I just want to, on an end note, I just want to share one thing with you that this profession, when I was, like 18, 20 years, when I saw that online child threat being so much imminent, we set up, a social initiative with our law firm called FIRE, where we are now giving cyber awareness to law enforcement and even educational institutions, and we've already attached to 150 of them. And in the last 3 years, all these sessions have been free, and my volunteer teams, myself, and I'm happy to now collaborate with IJM to spread this message around. Yeah. Thank you.
And one last word, you don't have a solution other than the police too.
Yeah.
Please remember that.
All of us.
Thank
all
you.
All of us are going to come together, and we're going to stay tuned for the next session. Thank you very much. Thanks to every panelist, the delegates who traveled from several parts of the country or from outside the country, yet more traveled from outside the country. Thank you very much for taking the time out to be here and for your willingness to share the knowledge. We learned a lot today, and we are going to talk about solutions in the next few minutes. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you very much, Moderator Ma'am. That was really a lively session, which would never end. But you can carry on the session at lunch. But now we will go on to the solution section. But before that, we have a little formality. We would like to felicitate some of our guests. I would like our member from WBCPCR, Ms. Anita Basu to come on stage to felicitate the following. The District Legal Services Authority, Kanyakumari, Pashumpan Shanmugaya, please be on stage. Mr. Pashupan Shanmugaya and Anita Basu, please come to the dais, please. Thank you. The next, I would like Mr. Suresh Kumar, District Legal Services Authority, Nilgiris, to come to the dais, please. Thank you. Mr. Suresh Kumar. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Lakshman Kamble, Deputy Superintendent of Police, Cybercrime, Maharashtra. Mr. Lakshman Kamble. Thank you. Mr. Amit Krishnan, the award-winning film director who leads the production of and the directorial team for Mr. A.R. Rahman. Mr. Amit Krishnan. Thank you. Thank you. Will you just wait a minute? We will go on to the next session. We have been identified some of the bridges. Now it's time for solutions. Can we have the video, please? I would like to call upon Shri R.K. Radhakrishnan, Associate Editor of Frontline, to take the chair as a moderator. The panelists, Ms. Grace Githaiga, Kenyan expert on information and communication technology. Can we have you on the dais, please? Shri Mohammad Mohiuddin, Chief of Field Office, Kolkata, UNICEF. Shri S. Irudaya Rajan, Professor, Center for Development Studies, Kerala. Dr. Rinchen Choppel, Director General, SciVec. Mr. Wim Brouwer, IPEEC, Netherlands. Shri Joydev Mazumdar, Executive Editor, Vidyasagar School of Social Work. Thank you. Since all of you are in place, as they say, we would like to felicitate you. First, the moderator, Mr. R.K. Radhakrishnan. Thank you. Then to Ms. Grace Githaiga. Shri Mohammad Mohiuddin, Chief of Field Office, Kolkata, UNICEF. Dr. Rinchen Choppal, Director General, SIVEC. Sri Joydev Majumdar, Executive Director, Vidyasagar School of Social Work. Sri S. Irudaya Rajan, Professor, Center for Development Studies, Kerala. And surely, last but not the least, Mr. Wim Brouwer, IP that's why K, so I said IP Netherlands. Thank you, Ms. Basu. And now I hand over everything to our moderator, Sri R.K. Radhakrishnan, and I can rest.
Of course. I'm not going to introduce any one of these very distinguished people. There are packets in front of you. You can read about them in case you don't know them by face. The only thing as an opening remark is that we have traveled a long way after the release of the State of the World's Children Report 2017, Children in a Digital World. It's probably not even about a year. So even that time we have traveled far too much. There's been so many developments that we have to take note. And it almost seems as if the 2017 report in itself is obsolete. To that extent, that is the kind of advances in technology that we are talking about. Let me also flag one more point for you before I open it up and then ask specific questions. The 9 out of 10 URLs that host child pornography and child sexual exploitation is in 5 countries. And it is not the third world. Every single person who is preyed, every single child who is preyed is in the third world. So this makes solutions to a certain extent easier. We know where the problem is, but it doesn't really help us solve the issue any better than what Srijit and the others were talking about just a while ago, mainly because a lot of issues of freedom of speech and expression come to the fore, and that is where every single loophole in the law is being exploited today to aid child prostitution and trafficking. With that, I will just turn this over to my first panelist. Let me ask Irudaya Rajan, who has just landed from Moscow early this morning after a particularly difficult panel. He has been studying migration for a while, and he has also worked on what happens for children in situations which are basically described as extremely vulnerable areas. So let me, rake your brains on what happens to children in a migrant situation, where we're talking about some 55 million people looking for jobs and moving not just from, this is not an interstate problem, this is not an inter-country problem, it's across the world this problem is happening. I'm very sure that there are no one-stop solutions. We do not, by the way, we do not think that there is going to be one solution that's going to fit everything. We'll draw the broad brush strokes, and then each country can think of its own solutions from those brush strokes. Please.
Thank you, Radhakrishnan. I just want to start saying that, in India itself today, 400 million people are living in a place they are not born. Almost 1 out of 3 Indians are living in a place they are not born. Now what happens to the children who are either moving with parents or living in the place of origin or the villages or living in boarding schools? Now I just want to start with an example of the state which I come from, which is known as a state with very heavy migration, which is Kerala. Some of you are familiar with Kerala here, because Kerala is, people say it is God's own country. But when I talked to a migrant in Qatar, I said, everybody want to be with God, why do you left Kerala? He said, God has migrated to Dubai. He is not in Kerala now. So I think that is where we are talking about even God himself migrated. So then everybody want to migrate. Kerala currently has 2 million children who are affected only by international migration. Forget about internal migration. I'm not talking about that. It's a very huge problem. Now among these 2 million children, some of them are living with only mother alone. And very few of them living with father alone. And another group of children are living with grandparents. And grandparents even cannot talk to the grandchildren. Because, like if you tell them, they are all, and most of them are unfortunately are either one child or 2 child. This is a curse for India itself. People are stopping with just 1 child. You are holding everything to them. And what do you think is that giving a mobile at the age of 5 is a big thing you are giving to your children, So, and then boarding schools. So you got 3 categories of children moving around, with mother alone, with father alone, or with only grandparents and boarding school. You have categories. Now, how do you talk to them? I think the best solution, I looked at my own work, is that I think we should go back to the families. I don't think we can, we can do nothing without families. Today, every family want to limit their children to 1 and 2. Then why you are not able to look after them well to see that they grow as a full human being? You are all running for money. I always tell them, migration means money. More money, more problem. More money means more problem. In that context, how we can protect our children? I think we should start from what I call them through the Parent-Teacher Association. PTA, we talk about PTA. They come and fight in the schools. I think we should ask them, because many parents don't have any idea about the children's activities. For example, my daughter who is just 9-year-old, she will ask my mobile. She said, I want to do an assignment. 9-year-old girl, she wants to do the assignment through the computer. Now, how do you manage them? So I think it is best for us to educate our family members, especially the parents of the children. I think we should start from there. And second, the teachers. How many teachers knows about that? They say, don't bring the mobile to the school. That is not the end of the story. So we have to educate our own teacher, like we are talking about educating our own police force, educating capacity building of teachers, capacity building for parents. And then we also see that very few NGOs are talking about in this country on child trafficking. If you talk about NGOs who are concentrating talking about migration, children, very few NGOs. So we have to create more NGOs. In fact, we should have a compulsory course. Historically, when I was in the school, we have what is called the moral class. Moral class we used to have in the schools. I think we should start even celebrating, creating a course where children are told about the good and bad things. Because we are not saying technology is bad. Technology is also good. So we have to tell them what is good, what is bad. I think that is something we have to create in the school environment. Create a class, at least like you have sports, you have moral science, you should also have how to fight with technology today. I think the children should be taught in the school itself. And then we have to get into more on child magazines. I don't know, people are talking about child magazines. Like for example, we talk about women's magazines. There are children magazines. They can also educate children through their magazines on the good and bad things. That's why we need, I think someone already told in the morning, about creating some type of do's and don't do's. Because many people don't know, even I don't know how good the technology is. We are just in the hands of the technology like a mad rush. We are all mad rush with the technology. So I think we should start with the family members, schools, even grandparents. Even grandparents, because today grandparents are living longer, and an average Keralites live 20 years after reaching 60. So they have to live with grandchildren. Yeah, I am one of them. So we have to work out that. We have to create families. You know, family has to be united, family has to spend some time with children, which we are not doing now. There is always separation. Today, the best friend, if you ask the child, is the first friend is the mobile phone or Facebook. I'll stop here.
Yeah, I mean, extremely close to that is what Mr. Mohammed Mohideen wanted to also highlight, what the role of the parent, the school, and the environment surrounding the child is. So I would want you to speak on that, please.
UNICEF has been working globally for the protection of children, and every year we published a report called State of the World Children. And last year's report theme was protecting children from cyber crimes. In West Bengal, in India, we have 13 offices, and we are working across the country for protection of children in different areas, including the cyber crime. In West Bengal, we are working with the government, civil society organizations, and also different institutions. We have, even in the hard-to-reach areas, the districts most disadvantaged and backward within the West Bengal, like the Purulia, Murshidabad, and Malda, and also South 24 Pargana. We have been working with different civil society organizations to do the empowerment of children and adolescents. So through this program, we are providing them life skills, and through this life skills education, we are making them aware of cybercrime, which they can be aware of, and they can be taught of, and they can be protected from. Side by side, we have been working with the police and other organizations within the government so that necessary legal and enforcements are being done. So these are the things from the institutional side. Now, let me also come to the family side. Within the family, the guardians and parents, we need to be very cautious about our children. What they are doing, we need to watch them. Whenever we are giving a phone, sometimes phone is very essential, but before giving, we can give them a simple phone, which they can make a phone call and receive a phone call, rather than giving at one go a children of 10 to 12 years age, giving him a smartphone, which he can do everything, whatever he likes. So we have to be cautious about all those things, step by step we have to do. Number two, we have to watch them, what they are doing, with whom they are mixing, what is the time they are spending. We have to observe all these things. What are the things they have been doing during the night? Sometimes we can observe that they are closing the door, whole night they are surfing in the internet and going with these Facebook accounts and other accounts. So we have to basically be careful. The most important thing is the prevention from home. So the parents, the guardians, we have to be cautious and we have to take the first role. Then it needs to be collaborate with the educational institutions, mainly the schools. The teachers need to be trained, and they can also play an important role to make the children aware of the cyber crime and all these crimes. So these are the main two areas I'd like to highlight, and my other colleagues will also address those things.
Let me come to you, Grace. Yesterday we were speaking about multi-stakeholder participation and all that, and the fact that women are missing from the conversation. Unfortunate that there's only one woman on the panel, but yeah, I think you can make up for Grace, an ICT expert from Kenya. Please.
I think in my country we would call this basically a panel. It's a panel full of men. And I'm sitting in the center to break it. Anyway, yes, like I said yesterday, cybersecurity is a responsibility of everyone. And there is need for multi-stakeholderism. I was asked to share my experiences because I convene a platform that is multi-stakeholder in nature. So it has cybersecurity experts, it has policy experts, it has the practitioners, the NGOs, and anyone who is interested in ICT policy and regulation. And so what we have found out is that there has been a misunderstanding of how to stay safe online. And so the need to bring this consciousness of people to stay digitally secure online. One of the things we found out is that the young people are already engaging online, and there's this they're in multiple platforms. And in our engagement with one of them, they told us about the insults online. And one of the ladies went to report to a police station and said, I have been insulted on Instagram. And the policeman who was receiving the information was very surprised and wanted to know who is this Instagram and where does he live. And so what we realize is that at that level, you expect law enforcement to deal with cybersecurity concerns, but they are ill-equipped, so they don't have the skills. And so for us, we've decided that cybersecurity needs multi-stakeholder approaches. So collaboration is very important. Collaboration between and amongst all involved. For example, law enforcement needs to understand what digital security concerns are. Those prosecuting need to understand what the concerns are. The judges also need to understand. And therefore, children must also be brought on board to articulate what their concerns are. In one of the things that we do as Kictanet is we hold an annual Internet Governance Forum that deals with what are the digital issues that have presented themselves online in that year. And this year, everybody was talking about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. So that moved from, what is considered ordinary as cybersecurity. But we had high school students, and every one of them who spoke urged the legislators to come up with laws that would protect them online. So they were actually advocating for cybersecurity concerns. And we realized that they are also affected. So the other thing that came up, has come up, there's the concern of how evidence of cybersecurity is handled. And so there's the collection, there's how it is handled, there's how it is managed to ensure that there are no gaps in that evidence. And again, that's a gap that has to be addressed by multi-stakeholders. Again, it doesn't matter what skill sets are required in cybersecurity, but everybody who is affected has something to contribute. And therefore, we should not put people out in the name of them not having capacity. And the thing about good laws is that they will benefit from input from stakeholder engagement. And that is what we call multi-stakeholderism. Stakeholder engagement, having views of different people and considering what sort of solutions they would need. Yes, and the issue of women or the gender gap. I don't know about India, but where I come from, we really have a gap in cyber security techies. Women cybersecurity techies who can actually articulate or even come up with approaches of how to deal with this thing. The thing is, there are so many women who are affected by digital insecurity, but instead of responding and coming up strongly, they actually stay away from digital spaces. And therefore, I think it's something that all of us must consider. Maybe if India is strong in that, it's something that we can learn from.
I'll first come to Mr. Brower and then pass the question on to you, Doctor. The question is this: billions and billions of dollars are being spent on cyber security by corporates, especially to secure monetary platforms and so on and so forth. But the amount of money spent for, say, child protection or any of those associated things by governments, including in the first world, is extremely negligible. So as a law enforcement professional who was working with law enforcement, how do you see these trends, especially when you heard the entire panel speak about the lack of preparedness on the part of the police? So how do we go about it? You wanted to show a couple of slides also to support your view. Oh, that's not possible. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I can comment on this. I heard a lot of studies these days, and today the last session is about solutions. So I support all what has been said already, but my aim is to make a three-step approach. We have to think and to set a goal. Goal setting is important. We did that a lot in this conference already. The thinking step is the second step, but acting is the third step. And what we did, with my background within the police, I worked there for 45 years, and 30 years of them was just in the main operations in the bigger cities of the Netherlands. The second part was reorganize the platform, the forces to be better responding to the public, make them more decentralized, closer to the public, bridging the gap between the force to the public, saying you are the force, you are the service for society. So make it more open, more oriented on society. And the last 50 years of my career, I was working on knowledge management on a national scale and a European scale. And what I learned in those 30 years was a tremendous lack of understanding and knowledge on the streets. Of course, you have good education systems, but what you need more in these days is a network approach, because all those organizations also in this room are willing to work together, to collaborate. But we are missing sometimes a real practical approach. And what I did after those years within the law enforcement, I launched a foundation together with some friends of mine and some colleagues and experts to use technology to stimulate collaboration between all knowledge workers within law enforcement, but also outside law enforcement, so making a public-private approach. And we launched a platform after preparing it for some years, aimed to bridge the gap between the thinking and the acting. And what we did is using the concept of gaming, serious gaming. And we see now in the world that many children use games, entertainment games. So my suggestion should be that we could develop games for children to be used to prevent them for the cybercrime risks they are confronting every day. And what we did for professionals is building a professional game to stimulate them to share knowledge. Because a very famous author in the Netherlands was making use of the concept of homo ludens. The man is used to play. Playing is a very important way of behaving. When we are children, we play, but also others, when you are growing up to an adult, are playing. We have lots of sports, but next to that, you can play a game to stimulate your learning capacities. And what we built is a platform developed this open source technology, very secure. It offers possibilities to share knowledge, but also to execute that by playing a game. And playing a game means that you are part of a team, playing the good guy, but also confronting the counterplay of bad guys. So what we do is stimulate people to change roles within the good guy team, from police to civil servant, from civil servant to prosecutor. On the other hand, the bad guy team could be a human trafficker, could be a pimp, could be a lover boy, and we stimulate people to change their role to understand better the logic of criminals. And by doing that, you are a better fighter to the enemy being the criminal. So by playing a role, you could learn a lot more than in the traditional ways of learning. And when Nelson Mandela, as a famous visionary, said, education is the best weapon to change the world, You should educate people on an attractive way by playing games in an open platform which could be used on a daily basis.
Thank you. We have heard collaboration, we have heard the fact that you don't really need to know much about the exact extent of how much a child is going to be affected, for the child also to be part of this conversation. And then now we have heard about the game approach into problem solving. Now I call upon Dr. Chopal, who has worked at a regional level, at the SARC level with this NGO, and he has been part of several of these discussions. And let us see what has worked, what has been stalled. Do governments work in tandem? Do NGOs work in tandem, or does everyone have an agenda of their own and they pull in different directions?
Thank you. When I flew in yesterday, I had in my mind a set of recommendations I wanted to table and go happily.
Yeah, go ahead.
But since the time I entered this hall to now, I felt that there was nothing that I could actually table which would actually even add some value to all the rich discourse that has happened, because every presenter, while tabling the issues, also at the same time said, maybe this is what we need to consider. So my first solution is then, we bring God back from Dubai and help us to find the solution. I also feel that this hall has enough wisdom and enough experience of addressing these issues that all we need to do is sieve through whatever presentations have been made to find what we could do that could make a difference. So I definitely don't think I am really that wise or I have that much wisdom to talk to all the Buddhas who are sitting here. And as a Buddhist, I can use Buddha's name, or people with the Buddha mind. One of the things which, over the last 25 years of my work in this area, some under the government, with the UN, and now having spearheaded this regional movement called SAIWAC, the South Asia Initiative to End Violence Against Children, I have generated this conviction that if you want to make a difference, you need to find the solutions in the political commitment and ensure that political commitment translates down through an inclusive, convergent response. Most of the time what we do is, bring 101 issues on the table and say we don't work with the governments. We only work with the civil society. Or we say, our governments have failed us. Our governments do not do what is necessary to be done. And then you probe further and see, did you take enough adequate measures to get the government to build ownership or commitment? By just tabling a report, once in a while showing your face and telling the government, we need you to do this, does not work, because governments have 101 other priorities attending to their attention. So what, over the last 7 years that I've done, is we have identified what are the commonest forms of violence against children, and then brought governments, civil society, all collaborating partners across one table, but make sure that governments are involved at every step so that there is an increasing understanding, there is an increasing ownership, and that translates into commitment. So that is something which I think is fundamental, in the sense that every panel presenter directly or indirectly said, we need to get the government to do this, or we need to talk to the government, or we need governments to act on this. So one important element is to reach out to the governments, get governments involved, give enough space for the governments to understand and act on it. We are talking about a digital era, and if we know our bureaucracy, we still have governments, bureaucracies that has faded files with half a page of petition, with half a page filled with 101 signatures going from one table to the other. We need a fundamental shift. And unless we do that, bringing all this high-flown idea about whatever is happening in the dark way is not going to penetrate through proactive, effective policy and legal instruments. So that's one part I think is critical. Now for cyber, what we do is currently, one of the issues that came up on my table was the issue of modern slavery. So what is modern slavery? Slavery 150 years ago, it has been put into history. But the actual practice has crept into our traditional customary practices. Look at child marriage. Child marriage is not just about a child getting married. It's about poverty, it's about the whole issue of livelihood, it's the whole issue of sexual exploitation, it's the whole issue of bonded labor. So child marriage is not just a child getting married. For that matter, you look at child labor, look at the brick-in industries, look at the coal mines, look at the carpet factories. These are all classical examples of modern slavery. So currently what SIVOC is doing, and this I hope will also satisfy my moderator, as part of the work that we are moving forward, we are working on currently on two things. One is refining the regional action plan to end child marriage and identifying what are the key issues in child marriage that needs to be addressed so that we make a dent. You look at all the glossary reports, you look at all the global reports, we are bogged down by age. But the issue is about a child's mortality and morbidity, and we need to look at sexual and reproductive rights. We need to look at contraceptive access. We need to look at nutrition. We need to look at issues that actually directly affect. The age is only a determinant of whether we should agree or not agree or allow or not allow. The other side is the sexual and reproductive, the child sexual abuse, exploitation and online safety. The regional strategy SIVOC is developing. We are into our 7th draft, and all countries, all governments, civil society, UN NGO partners working on this in South Asia, and IGEM has been also now coming on board. We are trying to finalize the report. The report finalization has been delayed because we find that the online component and the travel and tourism component on the regional strategy is not adequately addressed. So we are now working on that, and the learnings from this will help me to get that strengthened in the strategy. Okay. But whatever has come out of this consultation, I would like to try and see how best I can strengthen that. But at the end of the day, if you do not create accountabilities, if you do not accountabilities on the political and the state side, at the same time, us who are here in the hall, 2 days of wonderful discourse, come up with a set of recommendations, then what next? I would feel very unhappy if this is just a glossy report that comes out. I'd like to see IGL and West Bengal State Commission for Child Rights creating a process of follow-through actions so that next 1 year, 2 years down the line, we should be able to come back and say, we discussed that, we were able to make these changes. And from SIVOC's side, as the Director General of the Intergovernmental Platform driving the violence movement in South Asia, I would like to commit my wholehearted support to see how we can learn and use the knowledge out of these 2 days to move the agenda forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chopal. Matthew, you need to hold him on his word. He said he'll help us with taking this forward. Now, we've come one entire circle, and now we get onto a place where we talk about survivors. Before that, Dr. Chopal did share with me yesterday about setting up a regional forensic lab where all the countries of the region at least can share information about known sexual predators and issues and so forth. So maybe if we have time, I'll come back to that. But first, and very importantly, we need to also talk about survivors and what survivors have in store. Mr. Joydeep Mojumdar, please.
Thank you. Taking a cue from Professor Rajan and Dr. Chopal, as about the role of the families is indeed a very important issue to deal with the survivors of trafficking. In the last session, people are speaking about the child sexual abuse, cyberbullying, cyber issues, etc. But the recent research study shows that it is within the families the majority of the incidences of child sexual abuse takes place. Even the mother covers it up. It's an issue that is going to threaten or is already threatening the basic value fabric of the institution of family. This is number one. Number two, anywhere. So, any discourse on trafficking, I have observed that or in the literature even, research even, the major emphasis is on arresting trafficking, intelligence collection, prosecution, conviction, etc., etc. There is very scant attention on the survivors' issues. How many researchers are there? So my first appeal to these august panelists and the House that we need to have a national policy, at the same time a state policy on the rehabilitation and reintegration for the survivors. Again, whenever we are talking about the survivors, the assumption is that whatever the services available in the areas of healthcare, education, etc., those are sufficient to address the critical needs of the survivors. It's an assumption. Has it been proved? Last 6 months, I've conducted a small study in West Bengal and Jharkhand with 60 such survivors. And I have observed that 1/3 of them, if not a little more, are suffering from deep-seated trauma. Many of them are integrated with their families, but the families cannot bear the surmounting expenses for their treatment. Do we have the access to the mental health care support at their level, even at the block level? No, sir. Thirdly, the role about the local government. At least in this state, 341 blocks, 3,245 gram panchayats, very strong. But what is the role in addressing this issue, the survivors? Did they come out of the shame? Will men say that they are turned ashamed, stupid? They're stereotyped as. Many of them say, no, I feel very shy to go to the school. Why did this happen to me only? Not my friends? The sheer lack of self-esteem, the sheer lack of self-respect. Are we prepared to bring them in a buffer state? We have studied that bearing victim compensation and a very ill-equipped Ujala, there is no other scheme for the survivors. We have talked to the minorities department. We have talked to the backward class department. We have talked to the many other government departments. They are under the impression we have the schemes. Okay, say, sir, you have the schemes. But is it meant for them, specifically meant for them? No. We do not have any specific schemes for them. So there is a gap. Prime Minister Abbas Jojana, there is an order that they would get a rated preference, but it is not being implemented. Very quickly, the community-based rehabilitation, that is most important issue. Food security, in my study, it is only 40%. No, lack of access or no access, 90%. And what I feel, that their effort must be on to develop a survivors collective that has been done in South Chobbish Pargana. GJBK has started. It may not be a very fancy project, but at least it will provide some kind of some refilling, some kind of a trust, some kind of a ownership, some kind of a self-respect. That is most important. Am I lost? Am I outside the boundary of the society? That is the most challenging issue, to drive up the sentiments which is deposited among the survivors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, should God come down, or is there another way out? Let me come to Professor Rajan.
Yeah, I just want to make 2 points here. One is that as long as we are sitting with people like institutions like UNICEF, as also the International Justice Mission, I think the research on children is very, very big. We have very few research on children on the move. When children on the move, I think we have very few research on that, and also children left behind. I am not seeing many studies on children left behind. So I think we should talk about, because when you talk about policy, I am a very firm believer of what is called the evidence-based policy, because what is made in the country today is just policies made without evidence. One fine morning policy comes. That is not the good strategy. We should have an evidence-based policy. The evidence has to be created through research. And what research we have done, for example, on children, on left behind, or what they are doing today in the schools. How much time they spend on, say, computer. How much time they spend on, for example, sports. We have no idea. Earlier, children used to spend more time on sports. Now they are not all the time sitting in the computer and doing something. So I think we have to look at those data, and then we can go to the school, student, create some ideas. So the research on children is very, very poor. I think we should start about that. Second thing, the mental health. I don't know. We are not talking on the mental health. I think mental health today is very, very poor, because everybody is very, very much depressed. Even the parents are depressed. Forget about children. That's why, some of you probably heard in Kerala recently, one boy has killed his sister, father and mother, because he had a mental problem. He was not treated. He was like children. He was studying. But so you can imagine that we have to talk about, so we need lot of evidence-based. For that, I think International Justice Mission and UNICEF should, launch a major research on children, so that we know their problem, then we can also add to more solutions.
So Grace gets the last word, process of engagement.
Okay. Before I go into that, I want to agree entirely with what you have said, and the need to start training children in high school on cybersecurity and how to stay safe online. Those are basics, and if they are going to do any ICT program, then there needs to be a requirement for them to do the basic safety skills online. Now, process of engagement, and I was asked again to share this on how we did with our cybersecurity law. Number one, what we did is that we knew this law was coming, because it has taken a while to come. It took a while to be implemented. And so what we did is that we got the draft and identified what our concerns were. Once we did that, then we started setting the agenda of our concerns. So we requested to meet with the Ministry of ICT to actually highlight the need to take into consideration some of our concerns. We also met with the ICT committees in Parliament, both in Senate and in National Assembly, and had, a closed meeting that we went clause by clause on what our concerns were. And actually, within that, then we were able to suggest a clause on child safety protection online. One of the things we learned was that there's need to cite practical examples or successful examples from countries that share similar concerns. And so for us, it was very useful to cite African countries that have cybersecurity laws that have tried to balance between freedom of expression and the need to stay safe. And once we did that, that of course called for evidence-based information that required for us to research and give, especially the members of Parliament, those examples and what it is that those countries have done and what it is that we can borrow. And finally, what we also realized that it's very important to map the stakeholders involved in this process, and then what are their roles and responsibilities. And within that, then each stakeholder requires different approaches and strategies to appeal to them. I know my countryman and the deputy in the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions is here. That was one of the offices we engaged with because, one of our concerns was that these cases are not, they had a very limited enforcement rule that somebody could only go in for 6 months. And some of, we were also concerned. But the office also had taken the responsibility of coming up with the law, and we were concerned that that's not its responsibility, it should just be left to enforce. So within that mapping, it's very important to come up with different strategies to address those people so that you are able to target them and appeal to them for them to take responsibility. But again, I just must conclude to say that there are dilemmas in cybersecurity. For example, we are getting infrastructure from China, and there have been concerns that that infrastructure is coming and it's embedded with surveillance tools. And there's that concern, is that, how do we deal with that? And how will that help with dealing with cybersecurity? The international companies, for example, the Facebooks, the Googles, we've been told they are sharing our data. And we don't know how that data is being shared. If you come to a meeting where we are, people always close their cameras because they say, even that camera on your laptop is collecting data about you, is collecting data in your house, and you don't know how that is being used. And again, that raises concerns about how secure are you online and how do you need to stay safe. So there are basics that everybody can take. For example, setting your privacy settings on your social media accounts, avoiding using cookies on those websites that ask you to approve the cookies because they collect that information. And again, you want your privacy, you want to stay safe online. So I think this is a debate that requires, concerted efforts. It requires views from people concerned so that we're able to come up with firm ways of how to stay safe online.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now the sting in the tail happens to be that Grace actually doesn't get the last word because we're going to play a video from Pranab Mohanty, IPS 1994 batch. He was looking forward to attend the panel but couldn't because he is in charge of parliamentary affairs. He's in, as I mentioned, IPS from 1994. Held many distinguished positions belonging to the Karnataka cadre, was present at the President's Police Medal for Meritorious Services in 2010, awarded the Hubert Humphrey Fellowship for 2008-9 by the US Department of State, affiliated with a variety of professional policing and security agencies while serving in the US. Currently serving as Deputy Director, General Regional Office for Aadhaar, and has been tasked with the enrollment and seeding of Aadhaar for residents in the South Indian states. Now, very unfortunately, I'll have to wind up the panel because I have been asked to stop. Obviously, a lot of other panels. We are not at fault. The other panels have taken away our time. So, some of them are sitting in the front rows. You may feel free to beat them up. Now, I have to, unfortunately, wind up this and then give the space for the video. It's a 5-minute video, and after that, maybe if they allow us, we can take some questions. Otherwise, we'll have to run away. Bye.
Well, good afternoon to you, and a lovely day. It's indeed a privilege to be speaking to you today. I've been asked to dwell upon the aspect of solutions, recommendations, the definition of stakeholders and stakeholding, etc., in this at this point. Well, as a law enforcement professional, I might tell you that law enforcement professional is alone not competent in dealing with human trafficking. It's a multidimensional problem, requiring a multidimensional approach, not a unilateral one. And that having been said, from experience I can tell that the first step in tackling the problem of human trafficking would be to identify the pattern of human trafficking, in the sense that where the victims are being sourced from, what is the destination, who are the people who are sourcing them, how are they recruiting them, how are they transporting them, where are they being harbored, what's happening to the proceedings of trafficking, who's profiteering from them. These things need to be identified. These are patterns, they invariably emerge in every trafficking case. Now, thereafter, the next step would be to define who the stakeholders are, who can solve, necessarily give a multidimensional solution to the problem, who are affected by it, who can help. And after defining the stakeholders, we need to define stakeholdings, who can do what to alleviate the problem. So, a few years back, we had an anti-child beggary operation in Bangalore, maybe in 2011 and 12. And there, at that point of time, the Section 370 of Indian Penal Code had not been enacted. And we had to make do with whatever was available in form of, anti-trafficking laws. We had ITPA, we had the Child Labour Prohibition Act, etc., etc. Then the Juvenile Justice Act. So, the problem of child beggary was not a widely recognized one as one that could be included in the ambit of trafficking. After having identified the problem, then we set about defining the stakeholders and stakeholders. A number of stakeholders that we found. The municipality was there, then civil activists were there, the NGOs were there, the health department was there, the social welfare department was there, child and women's development, child and women's department was there. Police, of course, was there. Within the police, we had the traffic police, whose help we needed especially. Then the civil police, then the armed police, then the media. So several people were identified, and several organizations were identified. And thereafter, we mapped the problem. Where were these children who were begging? Where had they been coming from? Where were they being temporarily housed at a place in North Bangalore? Like later on, we found out. Now, after having rescued these children, the problem that arose was what to do with them. How do we rehabilitate them? That had been mapped out earlier while having extensive shareholder discussions as to where to take them immediately after rescue, what kind of treatment to be afforded, after having treated them, what to do. This is a victim-centric approach, which has been the recent focus in anti-trafficking operations. Now, some of these were successful, some were not successful due to various reasons. It was the first effort. I'm sure things have progressed since then. The second approach, the second aspect of the same approach would be the penal approach. The people who are indulging in trafficking, they should not be allowed to get away. In the sense that you simply cannot have any coercive methods against them. Everything should be legal. They should be apprehended. They should be brought before justice, tried, and then convicted. Once a person gets convicted, it is very difficult for that person to get back into the same ring again. And thereby you disrupt an entire process, not just the person who was doing it. So the entire process, beginning from recruitment, then leading to transportation, then leading to harboring, exploiting and profiteering, that gets disrupted once a conviction occurs. This one has been done to a fair degree of success in Karnataka, and I expect things to move on quite a bit. Technology has been playing a very, very crucial role in these issues. In my time, we had used Google location mapping to map child beggary, where these children were begging, how they were begging, what kind of begging was being done. All these things can be mapped out. Now there are more sophisticated machine learning tools available as well. Well, I hope this fosters a very healthy discussion today, and I'll be at hand to answer any questions. Thank you.
So thank you, members of the panel. It's been a pleasure being with you. Unfortunately, I had to wind up and questions?
Thank you. And I'm sorry we had to cut it short a bit. And I would like to thank the panelists for offering some solutions and not offering some, because there was time constraint. Thank you. We'll move on to the next session. And please be with us during the session. And a big yes. I shall carry on because we are short of time and people are hungry and they have to take flights. But this is a very important part that I am now moderating, as they say. This is we from West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights and IJM. We together thought that we should do something because all through we've talked about bridges, we've talked about solutions, and one of the main things that was there was, and prevention, the main thing all equaled to awareness. So to build awareness, we had asked several schools to participate in a 1-minute awareness video campaign. And these schools were from Bengali medium, from English medium, from urban belt, from semi-rural belts, and they all got together and gave us a huge number of films, of which a jury, a selected jury, sat and watched 25 of them. The jury included Agnimitra Paul from the fashion and cultural section, Obhirup Sengupta and Ananya Chakravarti from WBCPCR, Scott Adams from IJM, and yours truly. These 1-minute films were made on smartphones, most of them. So this is the power. You can have awareness through the phones. You can also have abuse through the phones. We have awarded 3 films for the best social messaging, the best creative film, and the best concept. We shall now watch a 1-minute film promo on the films and what the idea was. That would be short and sweet, and you'll all get the idea of what we did.
Participate in this competition. I really thank Internet Association.
that were made by the madrasa students especially were very beautiful.
Because I think that people of India should be made aware of the situations and what all can happen to them even over internet. Thus it is very important that they are made aware. Also, I want this film to reach to as many people as possible.
25 one-minute spots, or some of them were 1 minute full films. They were very creatively made, very lucid, very direct, and at times extremely creative. A couple of them were absolutely professional, and these were all children between the age of 14 and 16 or 17.
Hi, this is Dimitra Paul. I'm really privileged to be part of the jury of today's event, which is organized by West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights and International Justice Mission.
And especially know that in today's day and age, teenagers are so vulnerable and exposed to the dangers of social media and the virtual world that we need to raise awareness about this.
Namaskar, I'm Sankarraykolkata, dancer and choreographer. I'm very happy to see that involvement of different kinds, moving not only the English media, Bengal media, also Madrasa school.
I would really like to thank International Justice Mission and the West Bengal Commission for Child Rights Protection for giving us an opportunity to extend our work on human trafficking and sexual exploitation of women and children.
And now, that was the promo. And without much ado, we will now screen. We couldn't decide which ones to award. We wish we could have awarded every single film because each one was a gem. But anyway, competitions are go that way. You have to award some. And everybody, please remember, before you leave from our desk, registration desk, please collect your participation certificates. Every single school who participated. Now we will see the three videos that got special jury mention in the competition. That's for you to see.
ছেলেবেলাটা আমার খুব একটা সরলভাবে কাটেনি। সাইবার হ্যাকিং আমার জীবনের একটা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ সময়কে নাড়িয়ে দিয়ে গেছে। আমার মা ছিলেন সিঙ্গেল মাদার। সারাক্ষণ দেখতাম মা ফোন নিয়ে কি সব করতেন। মা কাকে মেসেজ করতেন জানতে খুব ইচ্ছে করত। কিন্তু মার ফোনে হাত দিলেই কপালে যুক্ত মার। একদিন লুকিয়ে ফোন খুলে দেখি অশ্লীল ছবি, কুরুচিকর কথা। মার প্রবীর বলে একজন ভার্চুয়াল ফ্রেন্ডের সঙ্গে অ্যাফেয়ার চলছিল। একদিন সেই প্রবীরই মায়ের অ্যাকাউন্ট হ্যাক করে সমস্ত পার্সোনাল ছবি, চ্যাটস সবকিছু আপলোড করে দেন এবং আমার স্কুলের যত টিচার্স সবাইকে ট্যাগ করে দেন। পরদিন স্কুলে ঢুকতেই হুলস্থুল কাণ্ড। চিরকালের জন্য আমি আর আমার মা মার্কড হয়ে গেলাম। আমি আমার জীবন দিয়ে বুঝতে পেরেছি অনলাইন সেক্সুয়াল হ্যারাসমেন্টের ব্যাপারে কতটা সতর্ক হওয়া উচিত।
invited me to a party, more like us to a party. Okay, just for an hour, is that okay?
Those were three which got special mention. Now, there were two videos, two spots which we could judge. We really couldn't judge between the two for the best messages, so both of them have been awarded. We'll watch those.
এটা কোনটা সেদিন যেটা ফেসবুক থেকে তুললেন হ্যাঁ তোর ফটো পাঠিয়েছিলাম দেখে পুরো ফিদা ইয়েস
সোশ্যাল মিডিয়া ব্যবহার করা তো খুবই ভালো কিন্তু বেশ কিছু সতর্কতা অবলম্বন করতে হবে
কি সতর্কতা মামা
যেমন অচেনা কাউকে কখনোই ফ্রেন্ড করবে না কাউকে কোনো অপরিচিত ব্যক্তিকে তোমার ফটো বা ফোন নাম্বার কখনো দেবে না যদি বড় কোনো সমস্যা হয় তোমার বিদ্যালয়ের শিক্ষক বা বাবা মাকে অবশ্যই বলবে প্রয়োজনে পুলিশের সঙ্গে যোগাযোগ করবে
আইনি ব্যবস্থা চাই
এই কে বাজা
आपकी बच्ची दरअसल ऑनलाइन सेक्सुअल एक्सप्लॉयटेशन का शिकार हो रही है और ज़रूरत है कि आप उसे बहुत खुश रखें ताकि वो घुली मिली रहे सबके साथ अकेलापन महसूस ना करे
माँ को मार डालेगा
क्या हुआ बेटा ऐसा क्या है
मुझे इंटरनेट पे गंदी गंदी वीडियो गंदी गंदी फोटो भेजता है
घबराने की कोई बात तो नहीं है नहीं घबराने की कोई बात नहीं है
which have been awarded the Best Messages Award. Now for the video for Best Creativity.
Oh wow, damn about studies. Let me fill this, it's so easy.
After a few hours.
Okay, they're asking for my photograph.
Next morning.
What's the matter, Juhi? You look so happy today. Yes, last night I have logged into a website which will help me get the diploma very soon.
What?
I think so you don't know that these type of sites fool people and demand for one's photo so that they can use it for wrong purpose like pornography or sex trafficking rackets and even sometimes cropping your picture into some other nude picture. Oh no, What blunder I did? I gave my photo. Don't worry, Juhi. We need to inform this to your parents and seek help of police as soon as possible. Thank you so much, Preeti.
We should monitor children when they are using excessive internet. Teachers can arrange more awareness programs on online sexual exploitation.
Oh, I found a new friend. After some time. Yes, tomorrow at 12 p.m. Next day.
Hello, Adi.
Good afternoon, sir. How come you're here today?
Yes, Adi. Today I'm here to explain you about the fake profiling on social media. Yes, I'm Pihu, whom you chat with.
What?
Nowadays, some people fool teenagers, blackmail them and get them involved in various sex trafficking networks. So, I run an organization where I pose as a girl and attract teenagers like you and make them to create an awareness related to this matter.
I am really sorry, sir. I misunderstood. I will always remember this lesson and will tell my friends too.
We should monitor children when they are using excessive internet. Teachers can arrange more awareness programs on online sexual exploitation.
And now, the video for the best concept.
Accepted that follow request? What if I hadn't responded to that hi? What if I hadn't gone to meet him that day? What if he listened to my no? What if?
Thank you. I will now call upon Ananya Chakravarti to come on stage and call on the winners. For the best concept, Vritti Gupta and team of La Martiniere for Girls, please can we have you on the desk? Vritti Gupta and team, La Martiniere for Girls. For Best Creativity, Shudipto Das and team, Gems Academy International. Can we have Shudipto on stage, please, or any team member? Shudipto Das and team, Gems Academy International. Thank you, congratulations. For the best message, we have two teams. The first is Shahina Khatun and team from Dankuni Siddhika Senior Madrasa. Can we have you on stage, please? And the second team is Tanishka Tekriwal and team Delhi Public School, Ruby Park. Congratulations to both the teams. Now for the special jury mention, there's Drishti Banerjee and team from St. John Diocesan School. Drishti Banerjee and team, St. John Diocesan High School. And Masoom and team from Mustafapur High Madrasa School. And the third team is Pooja Chawla and team from La Martinia for Girls. All the refs who are here, please collect your participation certificates from the registration desk. I shall now rush through, literally. I would like Dr. P.M. Nair, IPS, Chair Professor, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, to come up on stage and give us the valedictory session address. Dr. P.M. Nair, please.
Namaste and good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon. I know it's very tiring. Must be lunch is waiting for you. I won't take much time, I know that I'm aware of the time. I must congratulate International Justice Mission and the West Bengal State Commission for Protection of Child Rights. It's a wonderful workshop. In my 40 years of public service, I would have attended not less than 100 international conferences, but this made a difference. Thank you, both of you. It's a wonderful. I mean what I said. It's a convergence of all stakeholders. We see government, we see the civil society, the corporations, the media, the experts, the professionals, and so on. The students. I like the informal and formal convergence. That's the beauty part. Wonderful. It was so empowering, and you see the so-called survivors. I think we shouldn't call them survivors. They are all our missionaries. They are all much more than survivors. It's wonderful. It was spine-chilling how you have brought life into them, how you have brought them out. It's commendable achievement. Delighted with the commitment and concern of the West Bengal government, the Honorable Chief Minister of West Bengal, the ministers of West Bengal, the State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, the government officers, the police officers, the NGOs, and IJM West Bengal, led by wonderful leadership out here. Congratulations to all of you. The timing is very relevant, ladies and gentlemen. As regards human trafficking, we have been working for a long time. I recap my own experience of a first rescue of 133 children from child labor in 1982. And mission went on. But 2000, in the year 2000, when the UN Convention came, the UN Convention on Transnational Organized Crime and the Protocol, and see the difference afterwards. Up till 2000, it's one scenario, and after 2000, it's a paradigm shift. So we have seen the paradigm shift, and which made the difference. Now here is a time when the world has entered into cyber crimes and online sexual exploitation. Therefore, this conference is a path-breaking event, and I'm sure one of the recommendations that all of us should make is to tell the UN to bring out a convention on this specific issue of online exploitation. We should recommend to the UN to have a special convention and a protocol on the issue of online sexual abuse and online and internet abuse. I am sure once we recommend, it will gain its own momentum and time, but the days are not very far when the UN has to come with a convention, because it's an international issue. It affects all of us. The elephant is in the room. It's there in everybody's house. Why house? It's in the pocket now. Here is cyber crime. So we are all carrying cybercrime with us. Therefore, it's time to fight back. Before we wrap up on the doable suggestions which I was told, a roadmap flagging the good practices. There was a session on good practices. Ladies and gentlemen, we set up AHTU, Anti-Human Trafficking Units in 2007, converging the stakeholders to deliver. It made a difference. Evaluation, replication, etc. went on. Today you have more than 600 anti-human trafficking units in the country. We have set up something called anti-human trafficking clubs in the colleges and schools. The involvement of the youth. That anti-human trafficking clubs are making a smart difference in the different parts of the country. We have nodal offices in all the states. We have government and NGOs participating together. I'm talking about not only in India, but in the region and probably elsewhere too. We have governments and NGOs and corporates coming together addressing the issue of human trafficking, not only in prevention and rehabilitation, but even prosecution too. We have research and action and evaluation coming together. Research integrated into action. I don't know how many countries in the world we have, but we have full-time research leading into action, action to evaluation, evaluation to replication, and final research. So it's a full circle on. We have good practice in this country. We have capacity building programs across the country in various ways. We have seen wonderful presentations here today who made a massive difference in the judiciary, in prosecution, in the NGO sector, etc., etc. Personally, I would say I have been fortunate to train not less than 50,000 law enforcement officials and also help in rescuing 50,000 children and women. Well, we have moved ahead a lot. Cyber issues have come to our doorstep now. Post-rescue issues have been given much attention. We have a lot of SOPs and manuals and protocols and handbooks in plenty. Government, UN, NGOs, academics, etc., etc. But I would consider all these are islands of excellence. We have seen the amazing work we have in this globe, in this hall itself. I would say it's almost 10,000 years of experience. I was trying to assess how many people here and what years of experience we have. 10,000 years of experience in this hall. Congratulations to IJM and West Bengal Commission for bringing this resource here. Now, doable and not doable. It's not only experience, I would say it's expertise, it's erudition, it's a wisdom. So we need to take it translate into action. A few points from my side, I won't take much of a time. Cybersecurity experts are very important in law enforcement. In fact, we should create a system where every state and every district in the country must have a cyber expert working with the police. We need to work on that. We cannot start with all the 750 districts in the country. Start with 10. Start with 10. If the esteemed corporate sitting here and esteemed colleague sitting here can take off 10 districts in the country, maybe in 10 states, can you please walk to the deputy commissioner of police or the police commissioner or a person like IGP, whoever it is, the concerned person, and shake hands with him, sir, I'm here at your service. Form a team and take it forward. And of course, NGO support will all be there. So that will add value not only on the knowledge but also on the skills. Just by imbibing training, important training on knowledge is not enough. Skills parts are very important. When it comes to investigate, knowledge per se or skills per se is not exactly the electronic skill. It's much more than that. When you got to talk to a child victim, you need to have a professional who is trained in that field. It's not just examining the documents or the electronic world. So we need to have complete synergy, a complete convergence of the law enforcement agencies and the technical person. Then we can, and of course the NGOs for the rehabilitation part. These three can make up together a wonderful experience. I'm sure we have a lot of examples which you may be aware. Even a case like Rajiv Gandhi assassination, which I was investigating, we have an anthropometrist. You may ask, what is there, an anthropometrist? But anthropometrist was very important in our investigation. I can list out at least 100 crimes where we have used such scientific experts and tools who made a tremendous impact. Therefore, this is the time we make a district level and a state level convergence of the experts on cyber along with the police. Now, national network is to be done. We want that. Since Ministry of Home Affairs is doing that, let us wait for that. But in the meantime, I would say let's make an informal network across the country. Let's make an informal network across the country. National Human Rights Commission or National Commission for Women or National Commission for Protection of Child Rights should take the initiative. We will we'll bang on to the doors. I'm sure NCPCR will do. But here is why not start with the state? West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights is a wonderful authority they have. They have overarching authority of all the departments. You have various departments in the government, various ministries in the government, various activists, various stakeholders. So all the stakeholders can be brought on a common platform called the State Commission for Protection of Child Rights. So if every stakeholder in West Bengal can be brought together, make a small team and then address the issue of child trafficking and online sexual exploitation in West Bengal, I'm sure, madam, you will be doing a pioneering work, making a case study for the entire country, and the entire country has to emulate you. I am with you. Let's start out with this model of yours. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on prevention, when you have a formation like this in the NCPCR, I would request you to associate AHTUs, the AHC clubs, the SLSA, Legal Service Authority, the Child Welfare Committees, the NGOs, the UN agencies, the corporates, the media, and survivors too. Their voice also. It will be an all-encompassing committee which you can form, then take it forward. Let's take the mission of our anti-human trafficking clubs forward, the youth power. We are seeing the tremendous youth power today, starting with Tania here. And what a wonderful message the young lady has given. I salute her. So tremendous influence of the youth. We need to take this part and take it forward. And one important message lies in the youth power. It is addressing demand. Entire issue of trafficking, entire issue of exploitation, as the first speaker said, it starts with authority and power and misuse of power and all those. It's basically demand. It's exactly demand. Unless we contain demand, no true trafficking can be contained. If you address demand, entire trafficking can be contained. So therefore, this youth power is very important in addressing the issue of demand. Focus attention on prevention means focus attention on demand. So let's take it forward. Whenever I go for addressing anti-human trafficking clubs, not big messages or international conventions or state laws, etc. not required. Tell them simple, take a vow, all boys stand up, take a vow, I will not see child pornography. I will not allow my father to see child pornography. I will not allow my uncle to see child pornography. If all child pornographers if all of us can take a decision that child pornography will not be watched, they have to close the shops. The child pornographers have to close shops. They will not be able to sell in India. So let's take that small mission forward instead of creating too many complications there. I think anti-human trafficking clubs in the small mission can make a difference. Manuals are plenty. We have many manuals. I don't think we need to require any more. But at the same time, one handout for parents and teachers. The topic came up repeatedly here. One small handout for parents and teachers, if we can do that, ma'am, under your initiative. A small handout on online sexual abuse. I'm talking about the chairperson of the West Bengal Commission. We will be all giving you all support. I am sure IJM will be extending full support for that. A small handout for the parents and teachers to be subject to all the schools and colleges, very carefully drafted, because their children should not get intimidated with that. Parents should also get not intimidated. Very carefully drafted, and maybe some small portions of law as advantages we can give. But a guidebook sort of thing, around 10-15 guide points can be of tremendous use to the parents and teachers. We have a wonderful resource here. I am sure the persons who attended here, many of them are saying we want to take it forward. Therefore, I would request IJM to bring out a small compendium of the resource persons available here. People like Srijit and others can be made to utilize that. The resource available here, a directory of them, they are competent, not only just name and address, but what is the area of work? What's the area of their competence? What's the area they would like to work? If that can be given as a small directory and circulated all of them, electronic format, you don't have to print it out, I'm sure that will make a tremendous impact. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, in the larger context, as I mentioned earlier, the film which was shown here, short many films, ma'am, you have shown good films, outstanding films. Maybe we can even bring out a short film also and put it on the net as an educational film by this August audience. Where IJM and West Bengal Protection of Child Rights Commission together bring an educative film on the different aspects of online exploitation, which can happen A, B, C, D scenario, and in A, B scenario what do you do, in C scenario what you do, D scenario what we can do. An educational film which can be viewed by even students. Could be maiming some sort of we can do caricatures instead of having a real persons. So a short film can be developed. Lastly, let us work together to get the UN Convention. I am very positive that if a UN Convention it will make all us work together. When the UN Convention comes in, that international body will also start working. There may be a better synchronization and better convergence. Thank you very much and wish you all the very best. I really enjoyed working in this 2 days workshop. Carry home points are so many, but I've made it very brief to the extent possible. Thank you. Namaste. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Nair, and thank you for all your suggestions and putting everything together. And we are almost at the end. We have learnt a lot. We are taking home a lot of things. We'll talk about it and then we'll come back. I would just like to mention what he said about the films or, comic characters. We can also have a game on cybercrime, like we have one on POXO. We have that's to educate children, and it could be played by parents also, because you need to educate them as well. The other thing that we could have is more awareness programs, more empowerment of women, just as Kanyashri has done a paradigm change, similar programs if the government could start off. I will not take any more time, it's time for lunch. Just the last note that Mr. Saji Philip of International Justice Mission will be giving us the vote of thanks, and please do give him a patient hearing.
Good afternoon. I have glad tidings that lunch is ready. And I'm sure that you are not expecting a big speech from me, and I will honor that expectation. Thank you so much. You are such a wonderful people, all respected officers, social activists, colleagues, friends across the world. We are so grateful to you. My job is so simple to say thank you, and I wish I could thank you that way, but give me 2 or 3 minutes just to say thank you for some special people. We are so grateful to all who have come here. Above all, I want to personally thank, and with the WPCPCR and all of us IJM family, want to thank God Almighty who made this possible, for bringing such a great gathering all together under this roof was never a small issue. So thank God. We are so grateful to the West Bengal government for their immense support to organize this conference and the permission granted to organize this conference, and sending dear respected Honorable Minister of Law, Mr. Malai Khatak, to give his wonderful speech to us yesterday. And we are also grateful to the West Bengal government's IT and Information and Technology and Electronics Department for booking this space. We are so grateful to the government of West Bengal, and for the last 20 years or 12 years in Kolkata as IGM, we are experiencing their immense support in assisting the police to rescue children from the sexual exploitation. I'm not going to take the name. My fear is that it will run so many minutes, so I just would thank all the commissions who have come from different states. Almost 17 states are represented here. We are so grateful to you, ma'am and sirs. You have taken immense effort to be here, and we believe that you are going with a great message, and that will be echoed in your own locality. Thank you so much. Respected police officers, senior police officers from various states have come here. Sir, we don't know how to thank you. We know that you hold so much of responsibility, but in spite of that, you believed that this conference would make a difference to the entire humanity, and that is why you are here, and we are grateful for that. All NGOs and INGOs are great friends who are here, I'm unable to take your name. Somewhere partnering with us, somewhere they have exhibited their skills, and we are so grateful to you. Thank you. Thank you for all the academic institutions who have come here, the judicial academy, schools who have attended various competitions, and we are so thankful. And yesterday how celebrities of the West Bengal have come in support of the survivors and our program. We are so grateful to them. And all the organizers, choreographers, our wonderful friends who already have supported and vowed for themselves to be with us in the days to come. We are so grateful to you. All panel speakers, all panelists, I'm afraid I am unable to take your name, but I tell you, as already PM Nair sir has already told that I have attended many conferences, and not because of I am organizing or we are organizing. The panelists were so enriching. Your passion, your insight was so thrilling, and I believe that would be again come up in suggestions and recommendation, and that will continue to speak across the world as we are going to publish and will be submitting to the various government. Thank you so much. Our event management, Genesis team and their people have done a tremendous job to keep the place intact and beautiful, and we are so grateful. Can you imagine this wonderful convention center, which is here we are enjoying, is of international standard, and we are so grateful to the West Bengal government. And above all, our great inspiration comes from none other than our chairperson of the WCPCR, Srimati Ananya Chakravarti. Thank you, ma'am, and the way. Thank you so much, and all the members of the WCPCR. Some of them were walking with us, going to different department, Prasun sir and Sudeshna ma'am, and all of you, such a wonderful people. Prasun sir was telling yesterday that Saji, we are becoming a one family, an extended family, and he vowed himself to, take across to the whole things to the Chief Minister. We are so grateful to all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. My IGM family, thank you so much for coming. It was not Kolkata, it was Chennai, it was Bangalore, it was Delhi, and it was HQ everywhere. Kenya team, all of us together, NGOs together. We are one family. We believe we are one team and one fight. And this afternoon, as we go for lunch, it is my prayer and request that let us celebrate this great beginning. Let me repeat again. Let us celebrate this great beginning and vow not to stop working until all are free. Jai Hind. Have a great day. God bless you.